Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our 1,504th regular board meeting of Modesto City Schools. We will provide translator services prior to us coming back to order. I'd like to refer anybody to Miss Paula Valbuena with translator services offered in Spanish. Thank you, Miss Valbuena.
Thank you, President Urban. Buenas tardes, habla Paula Balbuena. Si necesita servicios de interpretación al español, por favor llame al 1805-324-7680 e ingrese el código de acceso 291-597-86 más la tecla numeral. Este es un número totalmente gratis. Nuevamente, llame al número de teléfono 1805-324-7680 e ingrese el código de acceso 291-597-86 más la tecla numeral. También puede acceder a estas instrucciones en nuestro sitio web mcs4kids.com dirigiéndose a la parte inferior de la página en Quick Links y haciendo clic en Board Agendas para ir a la agenda de esta noche, o si no, estaré sentada en la parte de atrás para asistirles. Gracias. Thank you.
Again, welcome. Now this meeting is called to order. Report out from our closed session is the board gave no direction in closed session, or took any action in closed session. Roll call. Student Board Representative Akwai.
Present.
Trustee Brown.
I'm present.
Trustee Daly.
Present.
Trustee Lopez.
Present.
Trustee Marks.
Present.
Trustee Mahia.
Present.
Vice President Maestas.
Present.
President Irvin. I am definitely here. Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. We will now, please join me, please stand for our moment of silence. Thank you. And I would just like to add to that moment of silence the remembrance of our three service personnel who were killed over in the Middle East as we recognize that moment of silence. Live stream. Good evening, everyone. This open session meeting of the Board of Trustees is being live streamed at the direction of the board. The live stream is available on the district website, and recordings will be available for viewing the day after the board meeting. Regarding public comment, MCS has provided an opportunity for the public to provide comments. It is outlined on the agenda. The public has been given an opportunity to call in and leave a voicemail, send us a comment via email, or appear in person before the board. Any public comment received via email or voicemail following the posting of the board agenda and prior to noon, the day of the board meeting will not be read aloud, but have been transcribed and printed with copies provided to each board member prior to the start of the board meeting and are available to the public. The voice and email public comments will be attached to a future board meeting minutes for approval. The practice will continue until further notice. For members of the public that are interested in commenting in the future, we welcome your comments. Public comment statements. Board Bylaw 9322B. If you wish to address the board during the period of public comment on a subject not on the agenda, you must complete a public presentation request card and submit it to the board president prior to the period for public comment. If you need assistance from our translator, please indicate so on the request card. Every person who wishes to address the board, please fill out a card. You will find the cards in the lobby. You can hand your comment card to Ms. Chambers in the back. I think it's Ms. Lopez back there, right? Yes, Ms. Lopez in the back. I also want to remind you, if you wish to make a complaint against a specific district employee, you should follow the district's personnel complaint procedures. Copies of that procedure are available in the lobby, as are agenda copies, which outline the procedures we will observe during the period for public comment. The right to address the board does not exempt the speaker from any potential liability for defamation. If you plan to speak on a topic, please fill out a card now, as no cards will be accepted after the period for public comment has begun. The maximum time for any one speaker is 3 minutes for a total of 30 minutes. We are pleased to welcome 2 students from Sonoma Elementary School to lead us in the flag salute tonight. Jalen Belanca, 5th grader Jalen is in the GATE class and maintain high academic performance while empowering his classmates to do so as well. He is active in student leadership and participates in numerous activities on campus, including announcements and the Kindness Committee. Jalen is courteous, punctual, and considerate to everyone on campus. He enjoys soccer, anime, and reading manga in his free time. After graduating from high school, Jalen is interested in pursuing a career in science or technology. Maverick White, 5th grader. Maverick attends GATE classes at school. He participates in student leadership and promotes the school's well-being through engagement on the school pride committee and by doing announcements. Maverick likes to play soccer and other games in his free time. With fortitude, charisma, and model behavior, he sets a great example for his peers. After high school, Maverick wants to be a doctor, specializing in cardiology and neurology. Wow.
Hello, everyone. This is Maverick and Jalen from Sonoma Elementary. Please stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In the military, the flags is always A6R recognitions, Ms. Sharakina Shams.
Thank you, President Irvin, Board Trustees, Superintendent Dr. Noguchi, our cabinet, our MCS families, staff, and community here tonight. I hope you've all managed to stay dry over the past couple of days. Thanks for making it out on a rainy, wet day. It's now time to recognize our students, our teachers, and our staff for all of their hard work as we delve into the second half of the school year. And one of the people we are celebrating tonight is an outstanding scholar, Fremont Elementary School's 2nd grader Madeline Sicard, for the character trait of respect. Here to tell us much more about Madeline's nomination is her teacher, Ms. Cassandra Ramirez. Ms. Ramirez is also joined by Fremont Principal Rebecca Donaldson and Vice Principal Jennifer Driscoll. You can all come on up to the front and face the audience while Ms. Ramirez says a few words about Madeline. Then we'll get your picture taken next to the sign. Sure. There you go.
Okay.
That's unusual. Very unusual.
Hi. I've enjoyed having Madeline in my class this year and watching her grow. She is kind, friendly, and always willing to help others. Madeline works hard and arrives at school ready to learn. She follows the classroom and school rules and is a role model for all her peers. Madeline is extremely supportive of her classmates, both inside and outside the classroom, and she is respectful to everyone on campus.
That's okay. On three, you guys. I'll have you look here. 1, 2, and.
Congratulations, Madeline. Thank you, everybody. Next up is our MCS Hero Award. Tonight, we're recognizing Sue McCann, principal at Shackelford Elementary School. Sue, please come on up and join us at the front of the room, along with Christopher Harvey, principal in charge at Martone Elementary, who is going to tell us a little bit more about why he nominated Sue as an MCS hero.
Good day, everyone. So, I was recently appointed a principal in charge at Martone Elementary, and Sue was very quick from the beginning, day one, to take me under her wing. I reached out, and she was very quick to support me, and many times I didn't know, I needed help with certain things, and I'm happy to see her mom and dad are here, and so thank you for coming, and her husband. So, and Sue's actually coached and supported a lot of people in my position over the years, and she's kind of an unsung hero in the district because she absolutely goes above and beyond. And many times you'll just reach out, and it's like sometimes on a Sunday, and she's like very quick to help. And there've been as I said, there are countless of people before me that have reached out, and like in my case, from day one, she just said, these are things you got to focus on. There's only so many things you can control, and that really helped me with the advice she had given me. And then I also think that her passion for learning is second to none, and also just supporting her peers and her kids, her ability to create an environment where everyone works and hard to achieve the best outcomes for all her students is an inspiration for everyone. And to me, when I think of a MCS hero, I see Sue McCann. There you go. Congratulations.
And husband. Okay, on 3. 1, 2, and. And the best staff in the world right there, baby!
You can bring it with you.
It's okay, it's all good, it's all good. Neither can I. Thank you.
Congratulations, Ms. McCann, for the well-deserved award. President Irvin, that concludes this portion of our recognitions.
Yes, and we're gonna back to A5, our superintendent's welcome.
Good evening, everyone. It was great to see so many of you guys come out and celebrate Sue. I appreciate you. I do appreciate you guys coming out. It's great to see everyone. I am very excited for tonight's presentation with the second half of the room still with us. And that is what you'll see the district's team. There's 9 network teams that are going to come present to you all and do a mid-year review, which I'm very excited about. I do want to thank all of them for just taking the time to put that presentation together to come out tonight. I know that you guys were all reading through it last night instead of watching football, which wasn't on, which is a good thing. But I do want to just show my appreciation to all your work. I have a couple things to share that's very exciting news. First off, we have a new team member to our comprehensive high school that I'd like to share. As you all know, Dan Park, as we discussed a couple board meetings ago, Dan Park retired mid-year, and with that comes a selection process to name a new principal of Beyer High School. During this time, we did engage with staff, with students, with community, all on what they would like to see in a new principal that is going to help lead that school. And I want to share a few things that they had identified. Qualities and characteristics that they would like to see in their new principal included an enthusiastic, experienced principal who's a good communicator, a leader that establishes routines and procedures, especially around school safety, knowledgeable of and highly visible to all the different activities that school allows, someone who will honor the Beyer legacy, and then lastly, regularly engages with teachers constructively and in a positive manner. And through the selection process, I do believe that we have found that person, and I'm happy to announce Sarah Cox to be the next principal of Beyer. Sarah currently is the principal of Elliott Alternative Center School, and we're happy that she's taking the leap and going to a little bit larger campus. We know that she's going to be very successful. She has been successful her whole career here in Modesto City. She has 27 years of experience, 4 of which was elsewhere, so the majority of that time has been in Modesto City. She's been a vice principal at Downey. She's been a principal at Insolent Elementary, and then again, most recently at Elliott. I do want to take a few minutes just to talk about Elliott. Elliott, Sarah took over a little over 3 years ago with a really strong vision to be transformative at that school, and I can confidently say she has achieved her vision, and I'm confident that the staff at Elliott and the students and the parents are going to continue that vision moving forward. We'll see later on tonight some of the data that's coming out of Elliott. We have significant improvements in graduation rate, decreases in dropout rate, decreases in Ds and Fs. And equally as important, she has started with her team 3 CTE pathways that the community is all going to be able to take a look at as we do some very large construction beginning this spring with a large multipurpose room and shop. So very excited for the great things that are going to continue at Elliott. And we will be going through a process for the selection of the Elliott principal as well. So please join me, and you guys already did, please join me in welcoming Sarah Cox as the next principal of Beyer High School. Next, I'd like to recognize our AXA Region 7 Awards recipients. Our award recipients are selected by a selection committee, and they're looking for some specific criteria. One is they identify leaders who are exceptional in their roles. Also, a leader who engages with AXA activities, a lot of professional development and networking, and also those leaders who strive for excellence, not only for themselves, but for their students and for their communities as a whole. So I want to share the award recipients tonight with you. For personnel, HR Administrator, Sarah Gill, Senior Director for Human Resources, if you're out there, congratulations. Classified Leader, Anthony Luna, Site Technician Manager. Once again, gets to stand up for continuation Ed Options. And lastly, Technology Administrator Ryan Reynolds, Senior Director. So congratulations to you all. And lastly, I am finishing it up here. I do want to congratulate this board for being awarded Region 7 Board of Trustees. I believe this is truly a testament to your strong leadership and your strong skills in the area of exceptional governance. I think that we've all worked really hard over the last 7 years since I've been here. I'm ending my 6th year here, really working to ensure that we are a strong board that listens to the community, that listens to the staff, but at the end of the day is making the decisions for students. And I think that our district has grown considerably over the 6 years. So congratulations to you all for being awarded Region 7 Board of Trustees. Let's give them a hand. I'm going to turn it over to President Irvin.
Thank you, Dr. Noguchi. Next, we have A7 Board of Education Member Reports. Do we have any board members who would like to share a report?
I think there's one before that. Number 4.
Did I get out of? Oh, the special. I'm sorry. Special recognition. How could I forget that? Special recognitions, and we gotta turn it over to Ms. Shams to introduce our special recognition, our proclamation.
Sure.
Yes.
Would you like to introduce the proclamation, President Irvin, and I'll take it from there?
Yes, I will. Thank you. This is Black History Month, and for all those that know or don't know or unsure, February is Black History Month. This special recognition goes out to our community as we recognize Black History Month as a district. This month started in 1926 as Negro History Week with Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who started ASLA, which is the Association of African American Life and History, of which I am a lifetime member of that organization, starting when I used to teach Black history over at Modesto Junior College. And so this month we celebrate Black History Month. Modesto City School recognizes the determination, hard work, and perseverance of African Americans, past and present, and lasting contributions they have made in our community. The Black community's contribution to the arts, entertainment, law, politics, science, sports, and business are noteworthy. We encourage our community to take note of the stories, the teachings, and the accomplishments of the Black community. And with that being said, just to give a couple points on Black history and how important education was immediately following the Civil War. And so when we talk about education, this was at the top of the list. Number one, right next to finding families after the proclamation was signed by President Lincoln, actually in January 1st of 1863. And so the number one priority was education. They wanted to become educated because after the Civil War, only 10% of Blacks could read. And so you put that in your mindset, of today, that education was important when only 10% of that population, somewhere in the 3 to 4 million, could read. And most of those were in the North, in the states that had already abolished slavery years prior to that. And also, I had a photo that I had got from one of the Smithsonians that I used to use in my class that showed 4 generations in a schoolhouse. And back then, the schoolhouses were churches. And so there were 4 generations in that schoolhouse learning because they all were at the same level, so to speak, in terms of education. So you had the child, you had the parent, you had a grandparent, and a great-grandparent, all in the same class learning. So that's how much education was important for those 4 generations of former slaves. And so with that, we are doing some very transformational things in our district as it relates to ethnic studies, as it relates to equity grading, and school bonds. And so I just want to put that out there is that we're still got a ways to go, but we're getting there. Not quite to the promised land, but we're getting there. And so I just wanted, everybody to just reflect on the importance of education and how important it is in our community for all of our students to be educated in our public school systems that we govern. Me and my colleagues here govern. The importance of that and how valued that is. And with that being said, I'm gonna turn it back over to Michelle.
Thank you again, Board President Irvin. As you noted, we're very pleased tonight to be recognizing Black History Month, and in so doing, we have a special presentation for you all today. We want to recognize the work and efforts of our scholars and our teachers who are involved in our annual tour of historically Black colleges and universities. Joining us tonight is Ms. Elizabeth Garman. Ms. Garman, why don't you step on up to the podium? You are an English and Performing Arts teacher at Enoch's High School. And you all, I would be remiss not to tell you that Ms. Garman is also starring in the local production of Death of a Salesman. Okay, you're part of the cast of Death of a Salesman, put on at the Gallows Center for the Performing Arts later this month. She graciously agreed to delay her arrival at rehearsal tonight so she could be here with us. And through your presentation, we're going to meet a couple of our students too. So thanks for being here.
You're welcome, and I appreciate the opportunity to address the board and people that are listening. I just wanted to answer the question. Basically, when I think about, what we got out of it, what was the purpose and was it significant? Taking about 36, Fallon, was it 36? 36 young people on a trip for a week, that's a great endeavor right there. On my vacation, by the way, spring break. I said no at first, and I was like, no, I don't think I could do that. And Fallon kept saying, Miss Garman, we want you, and Mr. Herbst here, they hogtied me. So I ended up going, kicking and screaming, but it was the best blessing I ever had. It was the best experience as a teacher that I've ever experienced, just watching lives change right before my eyes, to see them experience the opportunities and the possibilities that are available to them if they just try a little bit harder. Or if they, anyway, I'm just gonna read something that was given to me by one of the students that went on the trip. This young person wrote this almost immediately. I wanted to say that I am very grateful to be given the opportunity to go on this trip and tour HBCUs. I want to thank you for spending your time to provide this learning experience for everyone that went. I truly learned a lot about education and Black history. This experience has let me connect all the way to my ancestors and to my grandparents. Since we got back, I've been giving everyone, including my teachers, history lessons. My favorite part was definitely the Birmingham Civil Rights Institution and the Talladega Museum, because seeing everything with the time frames really opened my eyes on how much Black people have gone through. The museums made me realize I was taking my education for granted, and I needed to value it more. Sorry. Hearing the stories of the paintings hit me that for centuries, Black people were killed just for wanting to read and write. People who just wanted to educate Black people were killed. Threats were even made to burn down school buildings. Shows how powerful education is and why they wanted to take it away from us. If it wasn't for this trip, I would have never known what HBCUs were like and even thought about having one as my option for college. I now know a HBCU is for me. Tuskegee, maybe FAMU, Talladega. It was truly a blessing, and I just want to say thank you for all you did, for everything. And that is why I wanted to become a teacher. And I just thank God that eyes were opened. Minds were just filled with just a desire to know more and more. We were looking at art, and they were like, oh my goodness. Through their eyes, I was just seeing what it was like, all the things that I've read in books, they're seeing for the first time and experiencing just things that they would never see here in Modesto. And I thank the board. I thank you, Mr. Irving, and I especially thank you, Dr. Noguchi, for listening. And it is appreciated. But we need to do more things like this for kids. I am grateful that we're gonna do it, or you guys are gonna do it once again. I won't be attending. I wasn't selected this time. I would have loved to have gone again, actually. But when I think of the district's strategic goals of 22-24, we're trying to be a destination district. This is how we do it. You have to have people that look like the people. Like I thank God that we have John here, Mr. Irvin. But to ensure that people want to come here, you have to have a community. Like, for instance, that they want to come back to. Like Fallon. Fallon was Ronaldo Rucker's BSU student. Many of our BSU students, we encourage on our own, but it takes the whole village, not just one or two BSU advisors spread throughout the entire district. It takes a whole village to accomplish the kind of things you want to accomplish here. But one of the things I feel proud about is that the 1.1, ensure every student has a guaranteed instructional program, not just by chance. This program, this opportunity wasn't by chance. It was planned out, discussed for years from what I understand. And I think that you're gonna see the harvest. You know, we're planting seeds now to see the harvest. And the harvest is when we plant. And so I hope that the board will continue to plant in our community, and you'll see them come back like Fallon here. I'm so proud of her. She went back, and a lot of kids don't come back here, but she came back here to contribute back to her community. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I would like to have Cesaria Serrano come up here. She is one of my BSU students and went on the trip last year, an extraordinary young lady, so.
Hello, everybody. Being able to go onto this tour was honestly a life-changing experience. I had no idea that HBCUs were a thing, honestly, before going onto this tour. And Miss Garman, bless her heart, and Miss Fallon, by the way, were able to lead me to an eye-opening experience. And then I got to strive for something greater than myself. So I wanted to thank all of you guys, and especially Modesto City Schools, for hosting the 2023 HBCU tour. So once again, thank you all. Thank you.
Members, we have one last piece of this presentation, and it's a video from one of our former students who is now at an HBCU tour after having attended the tour last year.
Hi, I am Deja Briley, a 2023 graduate of Modesto High School, and I currently attend Clark Atlanta University. Life after high school, before the HBCU tour, was go to college so you can get your degree and then start your life. Life after high school, after the HBCU tour, was go to college to start your life. And yes, get your degree along the way. Before going on the HBCU tour, I knew where I wanted to go. My mind was made up, and nothing was going to change that. And when I got to the first HBCU, I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Seeing the culture, seeing the connections people had, seeing just how they lived and how they moved. I was like, oh yes, I want to be here. This is where I'm going to go. And it was the same for every HBCU after that until I finally picked my school, the best school, in my opinion. But that's the thing. Every HBCU I went to, they all gave me that same feeling, like I was home. Like this is where I was meant to be, and this is where I was meant to kickstart my future. One thing I will say going into this is ask questions, be interested, take notes, because you're going to want to make your decision for you. And you're going to know when you get to that school. Going to an HBCU is probably one of the best things you can do for your future. Why? Because they're built for us, by us, and their one mission is to see us succeed.
I don't know if Ms. Deja Briley is watching this board meeting tonight, but thank you, Ms. Deja, for that presentation. Thank you, Ms. Cesarea Serrano. Thank you, Ms. Elizabeth Garman. The truth is the word thank you is not strong enough a word to express our appreciation for some of the raw emotion that you displayed tonight and for really bringing it home what these tours mean and how eye-opening they are. But thank you is the best I've got, so thank you.
And I'll just add that HBCUs are open to all students. They're very diverse campuses with, some of them have flags from all the countries, from different countries that students attend from, and that's a testament to their diversity, and their opportunities are open and available to all students to attend there. So we encourage all students, and we got a diverse group of students going on the HBCU tour this year, just like we did last year. So yes, if I may, can I read the end of our proclamation here? Now, therefore, the Modesto City Schools Board of Education does hereby proclaim the month of February 2024 as National Black History Month. Staff, students, parents, and the community are encouraged to observe, recognize, and celebrate the culture, heritage, and contributions of Black Americans to our country, our state, and our cities, and our schools. Signed this day of February 5th, 2024. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. And now that brings us to our reports. Our Board of Education reports. Are there any board members who would like to report out? All right. Trustee Mejia.
Well, I'm gonna say thank you because I got the opportunity and I have the mic on. Thank you for doing that, but it made me teary-eyed and just to hear the emotion. And I wanted to report on that same line. Our ethnic studies committee is working on it, and I feel like this kind of like merges in with that, the powerful that would be to as students get to learn their history and the contributions their communities have made. So I think it falls right in line. We're planting those seeds and we're doing it the right way. So I'm just excited of all the progress we've made and that we continue to learn as a committee, as a group, and including also the community in those conversations. And I just get, we were thrilled. We're just having like deep conversations about the future and potentially also the professional development that's coming down the pipeline, how the universities locally are also preparing and gearing up for that. I was just like, I got goosebumps, same as what I heard today, that the work is being done and more seeds are going to be planted. The land is getting sold right now to plant those seeds, and that will produce the harvest. So I'm just pretty excited. And even though it was a tiring day that day, after that meeting, I had lots of energy that I stayed around for a little while longer to talk. So it was just amazing. So I just want to say we're doing this work that's so vital for these students in our schools. So thank you very much.
Vice President Maestas.
Thank you. Yeah, I echo that. Thank you very much for that presentation. Hard to follow that with what I have here. I attended a couple things between the last meeting and today. I went to the Enox open house, and I think some of us went to different open houses. Really cool. Lot of people there. Lot of eighth graders trying to figure out what they were going to do next year. I was really impressed with the cybersecurity and the coding Girls Who Code group. Really awesome job over there, and the Biotech Forensics Academy, which my son is really interested in now. Which it was funny. One day he's like, "Yeah, I don't want to do that." Then they presented to him. He says, "Yeah, I think I want to do that." So they definitely know how to sell their program, and he's excited about that. But I was very impressed. They had students there talking to parents and eighth graders that are coming into the school, and they had their students in lab coats. The cybersecurity people, they had their students out there, and they were telling about what they do, and I thought that was really great to have during open house. So it was a great event. The second thing is I had the opportunity to be a guest panelist presenter for the California Environmental Literacy Initiative, and they were doing a webinar for school board leadership for sustainability and environmental literacy. And I had an opportunity to talk to the group about the great things that we've done here in Modesto City, our electric buses, which I love. Every time I drop off my daughter at school, I see the green bus there. And we talked about our outdoor learning environments and just the things that we have put into gear in Modesto, and how far and how wonderful we've done in really being leaders in sustainability. And I want to thank Gilbert Rojas for all his help with that, and the work that he's been doing, and the help that he gave me in being prepared for that webinar. So it was pretty awesome getting our names out there. That's it. That's my whole report.
Thank you. Trustee Marks.
Thank you. So just going to share a little bit about a couple of things I attended. I attended the Stanislaus County Office of Education Employees Making a Difference. And we had 3 employees that were honored at that nomination process. So it was really awesome. Trustee Brown and I attended along with Dr. Noguchi, and I think Mr. Herbst. Yes, all right. So, and it was a great event. It's always fun. It's been a long time since I've been able to attend, and I just always love to see all the different classified staff and all that they're doing around our county. It was really special. And then I also attended Parents Leading Change last week. It was on the same night as our open house, so I wasn't able to attend the open house, but we're planning 2 parent forums, one on February 22nd and one on March 14th. And so I'm hoping, and they're held in this room right here, and they're held at 6 o'clock in the evening. So it'd be awesome if some more parents will come. We had a full house last time we had it a couple weeks ago. So I'm looking forward to it. The organizing team, and Jocelyn Cooper is our president, and she's got a lot of great ideas and how we're working together. And I see Dina back there too. She's been part of it as well. So we thank you so much for attending, and looking forward to the next ones.
Thank you. Trustee Brown.
Yes, I've got a few meetings to report on. First of all, as a board member representing Modesto City Schools on the Association of Stanislaus County School Boards, we had a meeting, and I'm pleased to report that there are a lot of great things happening within that committee that highlight great things that are happening within our county. At our events this coming year, we're going to be featuring talents of our own students. And at our annual dinner that we're working on, which is April 24th, I'm pleased to let everyone know that our buyer, JROTC, will be presenting the colors that evening. And there's an opportunity, I'm going to look at you, Jifa. There is an opportunity for a student to sing the national anthem that night. We have had a first to reach out to all the districts and had no one come forward. So I'd like to encourage you to reach out to our campuses and help us find talent. And let's see if we can get one of our students singing the national anthem that night. Also, there is a trustee workshop for board members that I'd like to encourage my fellow board members to attend on February 27th. And I know there was a flyer in our board communication this last week. And so I just want to let you know that our Johansson students in our culinary classes there will be providing the refreshments for that and the appetizers if you come early. So come enjoy the speakers and also recognize the work of our own students who will be providing for us that night. Then I also, on a regular basis, attend the construction committee meeting for the district. And I beam with pride when I get to go and listen to all the progress that's being made and see the quality of the leadership that we have that allows so much positivity to be happening in our community during a time of economic hardship when we are providing so many work opportunities through our bond projects and all of the other work that is done to maintain all of our facilities. So I want to thank that committee for the fine work that is done there. And it's so fun as I drive every morning to a swim class at MJC. I drive past Bayer High School, Davis High School, and Fremont, and I see all the things, with our solar projects at the two high schools, and I look at those campuses from the eyes of our vision for what our campuses can become with the bond funds that we have available. It's a dream in progress to see, and I can't wait to see all those projects come to fruition. But Fremont especially, to see what has come out of the ground, see the organization that happens as our students are arriving on that campus safely for the first time in its history. And it's just amazing to witness what the community is providing to us through the bond funds. Also, I was able to attend the Bayer 8th grade parents open house, and once again to witness the presentations that are made by each of the departments. And I was so impressed, as Vice President Maestas mentioned, the student presentations. It makes such a difference to the families if students are talking about what they're learning and share their excitement for the programs that they're involved in. So my congratulations to the leaders at our campuses for involving students in those open houses as they present opportunities. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. I would like to report as well. I attended the open house and 8th grade parent orientation at Davis High School, which was a packed house for the 8th graders there and their parents, learning about all the different programs and services that available to them when they come into Davis High School. And it was nice to be able to see those same 8th grade students go into the gymnasium and look at all the different programs visually to be able to see them. So now they heard about them in the meeting, and then they got a chance to go see the programs as well to gain a interest there. And so as I got to go around to the FFA and culinary arts, and they asked about their commercial kitchen there at Davis High School, and the new athletic training program. That's going to be sort of an expansion of the Health Academy. And so those who have interest in athletic training, be it careers at the school level, high school level, college level, or even a professional level. I have a friend who's a trainer for the Raiders before they left, and told him, man, when you retire, you might want to come over to the new athletic training program that we have here, that we got coming online here. Also, got to attend the Davis versus Bayer High School basketball game, which was a nail biter to say the least. So it was good to see, and it was homecoming for Bayer, so the stands were basically packed on both sides. And so it was good to see those activities happening on our campuses. And so there's some really, really great things that are happening in our schools, and so it's good to be able to showcase that to parents and then incoming students. And that's all I have. Next, we'll move to the approval of the consent agenda. Are there any comments regarding consent agenda items? Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move approval.
It's been moved by Trustee Marks and seconded by Trustee Mejia. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. A9, approval of order of discussion items. Discussion action items. Do I hear a motion to approve the order of discussion action items? It's been properly moved and seconded, properly moved by Trustee Lopez and seconded by Trustee Mejia. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. This is our period, A10, a period for public presentation. Board Bylaw 9322B. This takes us to the period of public presentations. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting and showing interest in our schools. Do I have any? I do not have any public presentation cards tonight, and I ask each speaker, not ask each speaker to come since I don't have any cards. And so moving on to A11. B1, sorry. Student representative to the board presentation and report. Trustee Akai.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Happy Black History Month. I just want to start off just with a recognition of the recognition that we had earlier in the meeting. I also had the privilege of going to the HBCU tours last year, and I just want to echo the sentiment said tonight. It honestly was a truly formative experience, and so I'm very grateful to the board and just to the MCS district for supporting students in their endeavor towards higher education and just learning more about their history and their culture. We have an Inter-High Council meeting next week on Thursday, February 15th, and there we will be checking in on our progress for our service project, and I'll also make sure to bring up our quest for a national anthem singer. So those students will be able to go back to their classes, check in on progress, give feedback, and then hopefully find a talent for us. After the last board meeting, I look forward to discussing voter participation as well with the council as we work to encourage our students to just encourage like democratic participation within our generation. We've seen over the years how much voting has been impactful in our district alone, so that's something that we want to make sure that we can continue to do in support of ourselves and our fellow students. Winter sports are coming to a close. This week is the last week for most winter sports, soccer, wrestling, basketball. So there have been a lot of senior nights, lots of homecoming games in the past few weeks, and people are just coming together to celebrate the end of our season. Many of our high schools in our district have also been competing in more academic competitions. There was the academic decathlon competition was last weekend, and there were a lot of victories and lots of wins taken home from our high schools. The county mock trial competitions have also started up. So many of our high schools, I think most of our high schools are participating in mock trial. So they were there at the courthouse last week. They'll be back there this week. Last week, an MCS school took home the championship trophy. So we hope to continue that streak there. And so yeah, we're excited to see how our amazing students go through for this academic competition season. I also had the privilege of attending the Ethnic Studies Guidance Council meeting. We talked a lot about civil discourse and building a classroom environment that helps to encourage healthy conversation and holds accountability for students and teachers as we go through the ethnic studies curriculum to make sure that students are getting the optimal learning environment and are able to just consume as much information as possible. And there was a lot of great input there. It was very insightful and just it was a really good meeting. And then finally, I am excited to say I'll be attending the STEAM Symposium in Long Beach this weekend, where I look forward to speaking on the student initiatives in our district on sustainability. And I'm excited just to return with new insights and information from school districts across the state and to get things that we can hopefully bring back to our district and use to continue on the great efforts that we've already made. Thank you. That's all for me tonight.
Thank you, Student Trustee Akwai. Next, B2, Modesto Teachers Association report. Is the president or vice president of MTA present?
Good evening. Microphone's on. Fantastic. Board President, Trustees, Dr. Noguchi and Cabinet, Learning Community. I'm Chris Peterson, proud President, Modesto Teachers Association. Last Monday, January 29th, the District and Association completed its 9th bargaining session to resolve differences between our proposals for the 23-24 collective bargaining agreement. Without a final agreement, the association declared impasse at the end of this meeting. This step includes submitting documentation to the Public Employee Relations Board, or PERB, which appoints a state mediator to facilitate resolution. The request for impasse determination was filed Thursday, February 1st. 2 articles remain stubbornly unresolved: hours of employment and salary. Although final contract settlement was not reached last week, during this bargaining cycle, agreements have been successfully reached with 5 contract articles. These articles include agreement, class size, health and welfare, transfers, and induction. The association and district held policy differences for these articles as well, but we were able to bridge the gap in between them and generated reasonable conclusions. A year ago at this time, Wear Downey Blue campaign. You'll remember this board in February. This meeting was pretty filled in response to administrative transfers. Going into those negotiation cycle, I feared transfer article would be too difficult to resolve, but that language is complete now. Class size. Since the Great Recession of 2008 and 9, we felt that impact in our classrooms. Class size totals established over a decade ago have been addressed. We've returned to pre-recession levels for most of those classes. Health and welfare, a concern impacting every household. Health insurance decisions are critical for all of our families. MCS and MTA have come a long way from where we were just a few years ago. We've made progress, and as the Modesto Teachers Association, we will continue to bargain in good faith to seek final settlement. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. California School Employees Association report. Is the president or vice president? President.
Shorter. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, board trustees, Dr. Noguchi, superintendent, and the cabinet. I wanted to report out on something that Trustee Marks had mentioned, the employees making a difference. I got to attend that as well as special friend of one of the people that were were up for nomination for the award. And it was awesome. That room was packed. And I did see members of the board back there in the back. I got one of the side chairs that I had to look like that. But I was a special friend, but not special enough. And we actually had 4 people from our classified employees representing Modesto City Schools. And I wanted to honor them tonight. All of our members, I think, are hardworking members. But it was awesome to sit there and realize with my new role this year that they were part of mine. Actually, I didn't look up and see if they were members of the union or not. I was just thrilled to see classified people being honored. And so they are Hope Duffy, Hope, from Gregory, and she is a Tech 2 for instructional materials. Pablo Alvarez, he works at El Vista Elementary as a custodian. Sabina Padilla from Franklin Elementary, who works as a paraprofessional. And Diane Hepner, Robertson Road Elementary, who works as one of our student records clerks. It was just awesome to see them stand up there and get recognized for all their hard work. And I know that is the heart of our classified employees. They love the students. They wouldn't be here otherwise. And so what they do is in an effort to make those kiddos' school days go so much better. The second item I wanted to talk about is coming up here in March, we have our Paraeducator Conference. And in our budget this year, we could afford to, or we budgeted to send 4 people. And it's actually going to bust our budget to send them as far as what we budgeted because the costs, a year ago, we figured, okay, this is what it's going to cost. Now it's costing twice as much. But we're sending 4. And we made a request to Dr. Noguchi to see if she could fit in sending 2 more to the conference. And she did find the wherewithal to make that happen. And so we get to send 6 attendees this year. So we're really excited. And this year we kind of added a little addendum to our agreement to sending people to the conference. We really want them to bring home and report out on what they've learned. Otherwise, we're just teaching 6 people to fish, whereas if we can get them to report out and share out and bring the skills that they've learned back to the rest of the 1,900 plus members, we can all learn to fish a little bit better. And so we're looking forward to hearing from our members. That might be the first time they've heard about this, but we are looking forward to hearing from them, and hopefully not only at our chapter meeting, but in another forum where they can help and share out to more people. I forgot to tell you, my name's Fawn Peterson. I'm the president of our local CSEA chapter, and I know I'm supposed to do that. You interrupted me midstream last month to get me to do that, and I was sitting there going, I've got to remember to say my name. I've got to remember to say my name. Sorry it came a bit late. Thank you.
I remembered you from last one. Thank you. Next, we'll go to B4 for our mid-year review. Dr. Noguchi.
Perfect. Thank you, President Irvin. As it's been mentioned a couple times today, we are going to be working towards a mid-year review. It's a quite lengthy report. I am going to ask all the folks in the back that are presenting to come up and to have both sides of the room That way, when you are walking up, it won't be such, the marathon that you guys got going on there. I do want to thank you guys for your time, for your commitment. This is, really a lot of work, not just in this presentation, but the work that you all do to make Modesto City Schools the best that it can be. Tonight's presentation is really threefold. There's three purposes to tonight's presentation. First, it fulfills a requirement. This is the first year that the state legislature is requiring that you do a mid-year review on your LCAP. Now, the LCAP is, 75 pages long. It's not required to go every line by line. It's what data is available. It's to engage in a conversation around student outcomes and operational outcomes thus far, middle of the year. The second piece is also to take a look at the student outcomes, really take a look at where we're at mid-year. We are just now finishing the second trimester in elementary, so we won't have that data. I saw that data this morning, so it's not in this presentation, so I will share that in the subsequent week. But lastly, this is also our internal accountability structure. 6 years ago, when I first became superintendent, I made a commitment to building a structure of accountability for everyone within the district office. Accountability not for, a stick, but really looking at specifically what are individuals doing at the district aligned to our strategic goals, aligned to the superintendent's evaluation. So it should be a system of checks and balances throughout the year. So this is where we're at tonight, and we definitely have some individuals that will share their outcomes in their networks. Tonight's presentation will be divided in half. It's fairly lengthy. We could probably get through it in 35 minutes, but there's so much data, it would be hard to remember all the data that you'd gone through. So we'll stop at midway. We'll ask for questions. President Irvin will ask questions from the public, and then you all will engage in comments. And then we may take a break, 5-minute, 10-minute break, and then we'll go back to the second half of the presentation. So that way you're not, you don't have 30 different goals that you're going to be looking at. Instead, you're going to be doing 15 or different data sets. So hopefully that will help. With that, I am going to turn it over to Mr. Godot, who's going to start this presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Noguchi. And as we begin, I'd like to say good evening, President Irvin, Board, Dr. Noguchi, and members of the public, both here and at home, watching online. And with that being said, I want to remind our board and our presenters that they don't need to do that every time they come up and are introduced at the microphone. We will transition from one speaker to the next. You're going to hear from 10 other people after me with our network group, so that'll kind of help expedite the logistics of the presentation. So as Dr. Noguchi mentioned, this evening we are presenting to you a snapshot of our mid-year review of the work that supports our efforts to achieve our strategic goals. So as part of that process, as Dr. Noguchi also mentioned, this is a requirement of a new, actually, Ed Code requirement that we present an LCAP mid-year review. But if you recall, last year about this time, we were also conducting a mid-year review. So this isn't a new process for us. It wasn't, yes, it is legislated that we do it, but we've been doing this as part of our annual cycle of continuous improvement, really looking at how are we making progress towards achieving our district strategic goals. And as a checkpoint in the mid-year, it's a good time to look at the data and see how we're doing. I'd also like to point out that in addition to this evening's PowerPoint, we had attached several resources to this board agenda item online, and I believe most were available copies out in the foyer, but we had 2 documents directly related to the LCAP. One was the mid-year LCAP goals, and then there was also the LCAP actions and services mid-year report. That is the very robust and lengthy written reports. Tonight, we're going to give you kind of like I said, a snapshot of the work that we're doing through our network teams, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a moment. In addition, we also had some resources for some acronyms, some pages that give frequently used acronyms that you may see through the report this evening. So as part of our LCAP process, or our local control and accountability plan, we go through, well, let me actually take a step back. One of the primary drivers of the LCAP when it came into the state of California was really about how are we getting feedback and input from our community partners. And so central to the LCAP process is How are you going out and getting the feedback and the input from our partners? So here you can see some of the work that we've done up to this year, as well as ongoing work that will continue through the year. We've conducted a number of parent forums, parent advisory committee, our DLAC, which is our District English Language Advisory Committee. Thank you. That took me a minute. We've had some staff forums. We've had student meetings, and you can see the different student groups that our Senior Director in State and Federal Programs, Steve Hurst, has gone out and conducted presentations and feedback opportunities. We also have our LCAP Advisory Committee, and that is our standing committee that started meeting back in September of this year. That group is comprised of 64 members for that committee, which includes 16 students, 23 parents, 4 community members, and 21 staff. All right, so that's a very healthy, robust advisory committee coming together to give us, again, another input point for this planning, and then also our community advisory committee and our bargaining partners as part of this process. So again, the LCAP is a process. This portion of the year is really looking at monitoring, reviewing what we put in the LCAP 3 years ago. This is not a single year plan, but it's a 3-year plan. Now, albeit this is the last year of our 3-year LCAP cycle. So we're also in the process of identifying our next 3-year LCAP cycle. You may recall we spoke a little bit about that when we talked about the adoption of our new or our revised district strategic goals. So I really want to kind of make the point here that our strategic goals are supported by our LCAP. Our LCAP is the way that we get the input, the feedback. We outline the resources that are available and how we employ those resources for us to achieve our district strategic goals. And so this is part of that process right here. You can see a screenshot there of our current district goals, goals 1 and 2. But really, I really want to frame that because you're going to hear from 10 different network teams this evening. You see them listed up there. Those teams are comprised of district level leadership that is focused in specific high leverage areas within that support achieving our district strategic goals. So for example, Goal 1, increase academic achievement and ensure equitable access to enable all students to attain college and career readiness. That district strategic goal is supported by specifically by those 7 network teams and the work, and you'll see as they go through their presentation how that work is related to academic achievement and equitable access. But I would be remiss if I did not also mention that we do so much more in Modesto City Schools in our efforts to support achieving our district strategic goals than what you're going to hear about tonight in our network teams. Okay, all of that is outlined in the report, but this is again just a snapshot. So we also have network teams that are supporting Goal 2. Those network groups, hiring and retention, our ELA, English Learners, Students with Disabilities Network, our UPK through 2nd grade, and our math, again, all have goals and efforts that are driving to support Goal 2. And then again, you can see for each of the next 3 goals. Goal 3 around a safe, welcoming, and respectful learning environment. You're going to hear from business services, our hiring and retention, as well as our parent and student engagement networks. Goal 4 around ensuring that our district is fiscally and operationally sound. Again, hiring and retention and business services networks are supporting that goal. And then in Goal 5, recruiting, hiring, training, and retaining high-quality staff with an emphasis on increasing diversity. You're going to hear about that specifically from our hiring and retention network team this evening. So before all of our presenters come up to the microphone, I do want to thank them in advance for the efforts that they put in putting this presentation together. It is a collective group of about, I want to say it's about 38, almost 40 folks in our extended cabinet that are a part of our network teams here. These are just the leads of these different groups. So with that, I would like to turn it over to our Senior Director of Nutrition Services, Chris Atwell, for our first network group.
Good evening, trustees. Chris Atwell, Senior Director, Nutrition Services. So tonight I'll be giving you an overview of how business services goals support student outcomes at Modesto City Schools. The business services goal is to improve quality customer service through efficient operations and communications to support student, staff, and community. As business services, we're continuously looking for new ways to support our students and staff. By aligning with the objectives outlined in the broader network goals, you'll see in the bulleted focus areas how we advance and support customer service. Tonight, we'll look at nutrition services, financial services, sustainability, maintenance and operations, and transportation. These are some of our high leverage actions to support our customer service goal. Nutrition Services has new offerings for TK through 6 student celebration meals. These celebration meals are meant to help schools support positive school culture and to also enhance student attendance. Nutrition Services selected 6 elementary school sites to host themed lunch celebrations. And so far, Nutrition Services has created and hosted a taco hour themed student celebration at 3 school sites, and will be hosting 3 additional celebrations in the near future. Nutrition Services has also created an Italian Feast Day. That's another themed meal offering we have. So far, this celebration has been received very well by our students. Financial Services will continue to provide assistance to site administration through more individualized one-to-one meetings so that site administrators are able to effectively manage their site budgets. The purpose of these one-to-one site visits is to train school administrators on how budgets are allocated, budget monitoring, and best practices. So far this year, they've conducted 5 trainings, and they'll continue these trainings for the remainder of the school year. In this way, site administrators can focus on student outcomes. Our sustainability team has increased sustainability initiatives with student engagement. This includes the formation of clubs, curriculum, and sustainability teacher champions. Curriculum is focused on topics like landfill reduction, air monitoring, and energy conservation. Maintenance and operations, they've installed an additional 80 cameras at several K through 12 sites to provide a safe and welcoming school environment for our students. And they are also working with IETS to develop a training video for site administrators to become familiar with the camera surveillance system. Also, maintenance and operations has implemented new procedures for monitoring timelines for work order requests. New software program allows the department to closely monitor work order submission dates and completion dates for those work orders. And I'm happy to report that this has reduced the outstanding work order wait time by 3 business days. Transportation. Transportation has recently implemented Z-Pass. The implementation enhances student safety and school attendance by providing students with a safe and efficient mode of transportation between school and home. Transportation will be utilizing the MyView Parent app, and this allows parents to monitor their students' safe movement in our community. The MyView Parent app will also notify parents by text message every time their child gets on the bus and every time their child exits the bus. And now I'm pleased to introduce Sarah Gill, Senior Director, Human Resources.
Good evening. The Hiring and Retention Network team is focused on 2 goals. The first goal is to optimize the speed in which we fill vacant classified and classified management vacancies, and the second goal is focused on increasing staff retention. The Hiring and Retention Network team is an extension of last year's hiring workflow network. Human Resources and IETS have continued to collaborate, focused on high leverage actions, including the implementation of an enhanced hiring process by developing a digital onboarding platform to optimize efficiency and improve the onboarding experience for new hire staff. We have also created a MOD retention report to establish baseline and ongoing data metrics to inform decision-making. The report provides 1 to 5 cohort data years with a variety of different filter options, such as job classification or employee groups. In addition, in response to our employee wellness survey, an employee wellness campaign was launched to support employee physical, nutritional, and financial well-being, as well as mental health. To date, the campaign has featured a 4-week fitness challenge with over 300 staff participants, as well as a monthly newsletter to provide education and access to online resources and various workshop offerings. Examples of workshop topics include self-care strategies and a mental health first aid course, which provides managers the skills needed to identify and understand and also respond to signs and symptoms of mental health and substance use challenges our employees may be facing. Progress monitoring shows we have improved speed in filling vacant positions by 26% over the prior school year. Not only are we filling positions faster, but our new hires are reporting higher satisfaction with the process. 93% are satisfied, which is a 12% increase in satisfaction after implementing process improvements. 87% of the almost 1,100 employees who completed our staff survey at the end of last year reported overall satisfaction with their employment in Modesto City Schools. At the bottom of the slide, you can see our current year baseline retention rates by employee group. Employee satisfaction and retention baseline data, coupled with our exit survey, will help us determine who is leaving and why, as well as identify any trends to inform future decision-making. Our next steps to continue our work include ongoing monitoring and refinement of the hiring workflow as we continue efforts to decrease the duration of vacancies. We also want to continue and enhance our classified and certificated orientation experience and further analyze data to increase employee retention. By following these next steps, we can continue to optimize our hiring processes, improve the onboarding experience, and enhance retention efforts. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Lori Hewlin, Senior Director of Curriculum Instruction and Professional Development.
Thank you. So our next, oops, I didn't realize she hit it forward already. No worries. So our next goal is an iteration of our Universal Transitional Kindergarten, and it's a pre-kinder or UPK to 2nd grade. And the goal is to have 80% of students in the TK2 grade scoring at or above benchmark as assessed on the KSAP and the Hegarty. Those are assessments used in our ECE and TK programs. And then Dibbles and Swan, which we begin using in kindergarten and can go all the way through 6th. Our focus this year, as we're transitioning into a monitoring of the ongoing student data from our students focusing in our TK level, we have been focusing on our professional development for our TK all staff members that affect that classroom. So our paraprofessionals were engaged in a 9-week series on how to support our earliest learners. Our teachers were engaged in curriculum, classroom environment, and then providing robust coaching support for our newest TK teachers, allowing them to go and observe our more veteran and successful TK teachers. And then as well as our administrators, so that they have a really deep understanding of the meaning of developmentally informed, how instruction should look in those classrooms, including providing supports for students who aren't quite ready to access that instruction at that level, as well as extensions for students who are ready to move on. If we look at our KSAP is an assessment given at the beginning of the year and the end of the year. The goal is to prepare students both in social emotional readiness as well as verbal and number sense that they're ready for kindergarten. If you look at our last year data, we see that 43% of all students came in assessed at the proficient level, and by the end of the year, we were at 93%. Although this year's students assessed lower, we expect that as they're getting younger with each year of implementation as we expand universal TK. We saw great growth for our all students and our ELs, and while our students with disabilities made significant growth at 45%, we didn't quite achieve the mark of 80%, so one of the reasons that we focused professional development in that environment to close that gap. We also assess in transitional kindergarten the Hegarty, which is focusing on phonological and phonemic awareness for our students. And again, you'll see our students come in quite low on that assessment, as we would expect them to. This is their first formal education. But you can also see that by the middle of the year last year, and then again by the end of the year, our students made significant growth. This year, they came in with even fewer students scoring proficient. However, we have already accomplished the same growth that we saw last year or increased growth. So we look forward to seeing this data at the end of the year to notice the progress that our staff is making in those classrooms, both our paraeducators and our teachers with administrative support. And then we look to DIBELS, and this is where we start looking at our kids that in our world are considered our older kids, our kinder through second grade. And you'll notice that DIBELS we assess at beginning of the year, middle of the year, and then we'll have again data at the end of the year. And we see growth in numerous areas. We see other areas that we didn't experience the growth that we would have liked to. It is important to know that the assessment over the course of the year is a moving target. The test and the reading become more complex, and the students are assessed at those levels. So while we might not be seeing the growth that we want to see in the percentage of students scoring at proficient, we are seeing growth in our students. And now our job is to dig in and determine how we can help some of our students accelerate that growth. And you'll hear about that when Mr. Calderon talks about the ELA goal in specifics. Our next benchmark is our SWAN benchmark. That assesses our math students. We begin that assessment in kindergarten. And again, you're going to see that from year over year, we are seeing growth. We're not seeing the growth that we would like to see. We're moving in the right direction, and we're getting in to make some revisions and refinements as we continue to implement and utilize our SWAN instruction and really monitor our kids as we continue through. Ongoing, we're providing targeted professional development for all of our teachers and our paras. We're beginning our TK para support. We'll be starting that in about 2 weeks. We are identifying ways that we can vertically articulate our standards and concepts from one grade level to the next. That's one of the reasons that we're looking at ECE all the way through second grade as we establish that foundation and prepare our students to be successful ongoing in MCS, and then continue to monitor data by student groups. And next, I'd like to introduce Ernesto Calderon, Senior Director of Curriculum and Instruction Professional Development.
Righty, good evening. So now we will shift our focus to English language arts. Our goal is to increase student achievement in the CASP by 5% overall and in our student groups of English learners and students with disabilities. So in grades 3 through 6, actions completed or in progress to date include professional development to certificated staff in the areas of DIBELS and DIBELS progress monitoring, which I will expand more on a later slide. ELA IEBs or interim assessment blocks, which are assessments aligned to the CASP and the rigor of the CASP as well. ELA data dives to disaggregate assessment data and formulate an instructional plan based on what the data is telling us. A critical reading routine, which is a multi-day job-embedded coaching in the classroom with the classroom teachers in the moment. It's usually a 4 or 5 day routine. Professional development for all teachers on integrated and designated English language development or ELD. And a professional development on effective inclusive practices to ensure that we further integrate our students with disabilities into the general education setting. In grades 7, 8, and 11, action completed or in progress to date also include professional development and certificated staff in the areas of ELA IEBs or interim assessment blocks. Again, ELA data dives to disaggregate disaggregate that assessment data and to formulate instructional plan based on what the data is telling us. And lesson studies, which allow teachers to develop lessons based on assessment data and student needs and co-teach a lesson in several classrooms together. So this chart indicates how students performed on the DIBELS assessment. A DIBELS, which stands for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills, is a set of measures for assessing the acquisition of literacy skills. This chart indicates how students performed during the beginning of the year, or BOY, compared to the middle of the year, or MOY, for each grade level. Scores in green indicated growth in students who met or exceeded the benchmark, while red indicates a decrease. Scores that are bolded indicate an increase of 5% or more, which is what we want to see. Please keep in mind that this benchmark, again, like Lori mentioned, is a moving target for students as we expect them to grow in their learning as they're going through the school year. All students showed growth in this assessment in grades 4, 5, and 6, while students, our English learners in 5th and 6th grade also showed significant growth. So this chart indicates how students perform in the IAB or CASP interim assessments that are designed to guide and support our teachers through the learning throughout the year. This chart indicates the percentage of students who scored near or at benchmark at the assessment and the percent change from the same assessment last year. Students in grades 3, 4, 7, 8, and 11 showed an increase, while students in 5th and 6th grade showed a decline. We continue to provide opportunities for professional development to our staff in an effort to better prepare and support our teachers. This year, all teachers in grades K through 6 have been trained in administering DIBELS. 106 of our teachers in 4th through 6th grade have been trained in the critical reading routine. This is about 71% of our teachers in those grade levels. All teachers have participated in at least one data dive facilitated by our district coaches, along with several of our site administrators who have also been trained in an effort to move that in their direction in the future. 277 teachers in grades K through 12 have been trained in letters or language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling, with an increasing number of teachers being trained in grades 3 through 12, along with special education teachers. And I just wanted to give a shout out to these teachers. It's a lot of commitment. It's 96 hours of training, asynchronous, and plus 8 days of being pulled out of the classroom or coming in on Saturdays. So they've done a lot of great work. It's a lot of work, but it's paying off. We can see in some of our data points. All teachers in grades 3 through 6 have been trained in delivering integrated and designated English language development instruction, and 39 teachers in grades 7 through 12 have participated in lesson studies, with an additional teachers participating in this process in the near future. So although these are just some of our next steps, we have several, but these are just some that we wanted to highlight. First, we will work to evaluate our current benchmarks in grades 3 through 11 and determine the alignment to the rigor of the standards. Considering we've had a lot of success and interest in teachers becoming trained in the critical reading routine, we'd also like to expand this training to additional resource teachers and inclusion specialists to better support the needs of our students with disabilities. We'd also like to continue to refine our process during lesson studies to incorporate a support document and a planning document for our teachers to further look into supporting our English learners and students with disabilities. We will also continue to work and train classroom teachers and administrators to ensure that English learners and students with disabilities have the appropriate designated supports so they are better supported on upcoming IABs and the Smarter Balanced Assessment. And finally, we want to create a CASP testing environment support plan in grades TK6 sites that have a site-based literacy coach, which includes identifying the best testing conditions for students to have the most success during this testing window. And now to report on math is Dr. Sarah Olson, Senior Director, CIPD.
Good evening. Tonight, I'll be sharing about our Math Network goal, which is all students will pass algebra during their freshman year. While this goal will be primarily measured by the MOD F rate at the end of semester 1 and semester 2, we will be sharing additional data that will provide insight into progress being made throughout the semester. Before we look at a few data points, let's first review the high leverage actions that have been implemented so far this year to support our goal. First, we continue to bring junior high and Algebra 1 math ambassadors together to revise the benchmark assessments with a focus on developing reliable and valid benchmarks through standard analysis and rigor to ensure students are engaging with the content at the expectation the standards dictate. Math lesson studies have been implemented at the junior high and high school levels. While not all sites are currently participating in the lesson studies, teacher interest and requests have increased throughout the year. We have expanded the co-teaching algebra model that was piloted last year across the district. We continue to see positive data related to this model, and later in this presentation, I will share some comparative data for this. High school math coaches have implemented coaching cycles for Algebra 1 at each high school. While these cycles are optional for teachers to participate in, every site has teachers participating in the coaching opportunity, and demand has continued to increase over the course of the year as more teachers are requesting this support. GRIP meetings continue to focus on math conversations and looking at how sites are supporting students in their Algebra 1 courses. The work with the California Ed Partners continues. Downey and Modesto High Schools and Hanshaw and Mark Twain Junior High Schools are participating in this with a math focus on rigor and equitable grading practices to support students as they transition from 8th grade to 9th grade. We've also implemented PLC coaching with Dr. Doug Reeves this year, and the areas of focus district-wide for this work are in math and ELA. We know it is important to build a solid math foundation for our students starting in elementary school to support the work that is done at the junior high and high school levels. Here we see the 4-year longitudinal data for SWAN Math Benchmark 1 for kindergarten through 8th grade. The data displayed in this chart shows the percent of students who met or exceeded standards on Benchmark 1. The kindergarten through 6th grade data is reflective of all 22 elementary sites in the district. The 7th and 8th grade data is reflective of Tuolumne students only. Since Tuolumne is a TK-8 site, the SWAN math program is used through 7th and 8th grade, including all SWAN assessments. We see the continued trajectory of scores starting high in kindergarten and gradually decreasing down to 4th grade, and then increasing in 5th and 6th grade and decreasing again in 7th and 8th grade. When looking at each grade level, many of the grades showed an increase over the previous year, and nearly all are surpassing the 2020-2021 scores. Digging a little deeper into the SWAN Math Benchmark 1 met and exceeded data for last year and this year, we see growth in a majority of the grade levels for all students. When looking at our student groups, we see a similar trend for our students with disabilities and English learners. And as was pointed out earlier, the green shows the growth, and then the red shows a decline. So majority of our students have shown growth over the 2 years including the student groups, students with disabilities and English learners. Moving on to our secondary data, we have the F rate for Math 7, Math 8, and Algebra 1 for Semester 1. The table displays the F rate percent at the end of Semester 1 for this year and the percent difference from the same time last year. As you can see, all students in Math 7 and Math 8 had no change in the F rate, while our Math 7 and Math 8 students with disabilities and English learners showed a slight increase in F rate, which is why it's red in the graph. One thing to note about the algebra data is that it is reflective of 9th grade students only who are enrolled in the course. Overall, our students in 9th grade enrolled in algebra and our 9th grade English learner students in algebra had a decrease in F rate, while our 9th grade algebra students with disabilities showed a slight increase. Moving on to some data for our co-teaching model, we have a table here comparing the F rate data for Algebra 1 for Semester 1 in 2022 and Semester 1 for this year in 2023. We've separated the co-teaching cohort of students and the traditional algebra cohort of students. One thing to note about this data is the 2022-2023 data is reflective of the co-teaching model only, which happened in our pilot program last year in Johansson. and that only was 5 sections of students. And then the traditional algebra cohort is reflective of Johansson students. Since the co-teaching model has been expanded across the district this year, the 2023 data is reflective of all students enrolled in the co-teaching classes across the district compared to students enrolled in the traditional algebra courses across the district. The data for this table includes 10th and 11th grade students who are enrolled in Algebra 1, as we do have some students in those grade levels that take Algebra 1 more than 1 year. When looking at all of the students, we see that students in the co-teaching cohort had a lower F rate for both years. Students with disabilities had virtually no change in F rate, and the English learners in this year's co-teaching cohort had a lower F rate than last year. Moving on to the algebra benchmark data we have to date, we see similar trends for students enrolled in the Algebra 1 co-teaching model compared to student data for students enrolled in the traditional algebra courses. This data presents the percent of students who met or exceeded standards on benchmark 1 and benchmark 2. For both benchmarks, we see the students in the co-teaching cohort outperforming their peers in the traditional algebra cohort as reflected in the bottom bar of the table. We also see growth from benchmark 1 to benchmark 2 for all students, students with disabilities, and English learners for both the co-teaching and traditional groups of students. This is also a similar trend to the data we saw for last year's co-teaching pilot at Johansson. Looking ahead to our next steps, we will continue to focus and monitor the work that is being done in the following areas. Math ambassadors will continue to meet and work on the alignment of benchmarks with the rigor that the standards expect. We will continue the PLC focus with Dr. Reeves. Professional development in lesson design and delivery continues to be provided, and we are working to pilot the co-teaching model in 8th grade, and we are exploring a co-teaching pilot for geometry. There will be continued monitoring of the co-teaching model, and our work will continue with Ed Partners on Track at the 4 schools that I mentioned earlier. Now time for comments and questions.
It brings us to our questions to the audience. There are questions from, comments from the audience. You read, come to the podium. Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, are there comments from the board? Vice President Maestas.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for this, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it too. I have a couple of questions, and I won't make this long. I gotta go all the way back to my first notes here. So you probably know that most of my questions are probably going to be about math. Actually, I only have a couple questions. So my first question is the ELA for 3-6 progress monitoring. Actually, never mind. I don't have a. That was just for me to circle for later. So I'm trying to keep. I know, right? You were sweating it. Okay, so my question is the key performance indicators for K6-1 math benchmarks. I don't know what page that is. That's the chart after the bar chart. So, keep going. One more after that, right there. Are these cohorts or year-to-year comparisons? So, for example, the grade 6, 40% from 22-23, and then in the 23-24, that's also grade 6, but those would have been grade 5 kids last year.
Correct.
Okay. So if we wanted to compare cohorts, we would go like the 40% 22-23, and then their grade 7 first year benchmark would be the 33% 23-24.
Yes.
Across.
Yes, that's
okay.
correct.
That's My only question. Thank you just for, so I knew that comparison. And then, I'd love to analyze what's working so well with co-teaching. I mean, I have my own ideas on what it is, but I do want to say I really appreciate all of those next steps, looking at the co-teaching models, what actions, what things are making it successful. Can you go back one slide? Right there. I just wanted to highlight, I'd stand up and show people on this screen there too, but 56 and 52, the co-teaching kids are the kids that would have been placed in a lower class, right? These are kids that struggled coming in to begin with, correct? With algebra. They would have been in a pre-algebra class, but now they were kind of tested into this class. So if you look at 56 and 52 there, that is what I would consider equity in action. We've provided something for those kids to put them in an equal place with everyone else. And it's something that they needed. So we are doing what we said we were going to do in terms of equity in this model. And you see it across the board in that. And so I get shivers just thinking about that there's an example of when we talk that we mean equity, this is what we're doing. And then my last question, this is a question from my son. He wants to know where you buy your apples. Because it's kind of a joke, but still, for some reason, he says these are like the best apples in the world.
We partner with a company called AgLink out of Belico. So a lot of the local farmers in the area, we've had Pink Ladies this year, we've had Granny Smith, we've had Gala. So we try to always have a variety, but several different farms in the area we use.
Yeah, I appreciate our local farmers because they're feeding our kids, and the kids like the apples. So great job. That was it.
Trustee Daly.
Shoot, if we have Pink Ladies local, those are amazing, so I get it. Thank you guys so much. It was nice this year to be able to see you guys stand up and for me to recognize you and not have a ton of questions about, well, what's this or what's that? I would love a board communication on, I don't know who I would be looking at, on the Z passes and the progress, because this is the first year, right?
Yes.
So I just for curiosity, not for anything other than that. The key performance indicators where the SWON model goes down 3rd, 4th grade, and then back up. I'm curious, do we have anybody looking at the psychosocial development associated with those age groups? Because that's 3rd grade is really for reading, for math, for everything. It seems to be math is 4th grade, but there seems to be a struggle right there. So are we looking at any of the social development that should be happening and whether or not that is affecting the kids?
We're not looking at that specifically, but we can look into that. I think a lot of that has to do with fractions. That's about when fractions hit, and at that point, you're not just learning about operations, but now you're doing operations in irrational numbers, and it gets tough. But I would say that also models a lot of the state trends as well with those grade levels of proficiencies. But yes, a lot of work there to do.
That's also the year that you're transitioning from learning to read to reading to learn. So, okay. Yeah. It's just curious too. There's that possible component, more of a comment than necessarily anything else. Again, thank you guys so much. This is a ton of information to probably present as well as absorb.
Thank you, Trustee Daly. Trustee Marks.
Thank you. This is great. It's always great to see where we are, where we've been, and how we're doing. And so I had a couple questions on when the public looks at this, so when we say benchmarks, there are Modesto City Schools benchmarks, and then how do they relate to like the state levels of at or above grade level? Or like if I'm a parent, how do I understand this better? So I want my child to, just understanding it.
Yeah, it's a great question. In fact, you'll see some of the next actions are about maintaining that level of rigor with the state. So when we say benchmarks, it means it's an assessment we give that's common across grade levels and school sites. So we use that term in a generic sense, but we actually have benchmarks associated with the curriculum. So you'll hear SWAN benchmark, that's a curriculum embedded assessment. You'll hear DIBELS benchmark, so that's a nationally normed assessment on phonic awareness and kids being able to read. KSEP, Hegarty, those are again national tests. So it kind of depends on which benchmark we're talking about. But specifically, that's one of our areas that we want to look into is how well are these benchmarks maybe a predictor of the level of rigor that the kids would expect on state assessments. Oh yeah, so another benchmark you'll hear us is the IAB, and you heard Ernesto talk about that. So the IAB is an assessment made and delivered by the same people who made and deliver the CASP assessment. Okay. So it's the same platform, it's the same type of questions, and the idea is it's a smaller assessment on maybe just a few standards to be able to help us assess, okay, how are we doing on those so far? That's why it's called an interim assessment.
Okay, so when I look at, let's just do this one, math benchmarks, that's a key performance indicator, so it's right after that one that was the columns, all the colored columns. So when I look at, let's just say, we'll do third grade, since third grade is such a key area. So in 23, 24, 43% of the students were at or above grade level, at or above the benchmark. Is that
at
correct?
or above, they met or exceeded the standards for that
okay.
benchmark, correct.
Okay, all right, okay, so that helps to understand where they are, and that's why we saw the graph where they're doing really well in kindergarten, kind of took a dip, and then go back up in 5th and 6th grade. So, okay, that helps me a lot to understand that. So then going back to the critical reading routine. So when I'm looking at education and trying to make decisions on where do we go from here on LCAP and how is this going to look, I'm looking at the most critical portion is getting our kids set with reading and math at K through 3. So they're on it. They know what they're doing. When they get to third grade, they're reading to learn. So now, as they go into 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, this is going to give them that foundation that they need for the rest of their life, really. So I look at that. So I love that we're doing the critical reading routines, and it was a 4 or 5 day routine. And then when I looked at the actual LCAP and the money that we're spending on certain things, I noticed that there was a grant for reading coaches in there, and I didn't know if there's a way that we can add to that as a school district, because I know we used to have a very strong, I can't remember, it was called Looking Through the Looking Glass or something, and we watched the teachers teach students how to read, and I watched students move just in an hour. I watched them move from like a level 3 to a level 5, and I watched the teacher teach them. So I know we had to cut that years ago, that program, but if there's something like that, I'm just looking at it saying, how can we take what we're doing and just help move it a little bit higher and a little bit faster?
I think Ernesto's got this one.
Okay, good. Thank you, Ernesto. I thought if he's the ELA, you got it. Okay,
All right.
Thank you, Ernesto.
So I can answer that question. So essentially, our district qualified to receive 6 site-based coaches. And they've already started this whole year. They're incredible coaches. This year, the state has given us funds for 2 additional coaches for next year. And so we're gonna add Burbank and Kirshen next year as well. What I love about this process is that it allows them to have a site-based coach, but it also alleviates the work that our other coaches are doing. Our CIPD coaches are now able to support sites at a more personal level because they have less sites to support, essentially, because we've provided that support to sites directly with a grant. That's usually, at this time, it's a 4-year grant.
Oh, great. So we'll have access to them for a longer period of time than just like 2 years or 1 year. Okay, so 4 years?
It's a 4-year grant,
Okay,
yes.
great. All right. So now, because I was thinking, if I'm a teacher and I'm teaching, let's say I'm teaching third grade and I have 25 students, anyway. So, and let's say 8 of my students aren't doing well in reading. for that teacher to spend the extra time to teach those 8 students, it would be helpful if there's a coach that can help them, move up. So I'm just looking at the LCAP saying, how can we support this in a greater capacity as we look at the funding from LCAP, because it's the majority of our budget. So when we look at that, so I'm thrilled to hear that we have some coaches, but that's at 8 schools or?
6 this year, 8 next year. And the beauty about it too is part of their work is kind of molding what the grant requirements are versus what our goals are for MCS and kind of melting them together. So part of their work is working directly with the MTSS coaches at the site in order for them to really develop a multi-tier system of support. So what just happens in Tier 1 instruction, these 8 coaches and our CIPD coaches in English Language Arts are really supporting Tier 1 first-time instruction. That's what the bulk of their work is, and then they work directly with MTSS coaches to support students in the Tier 2 and the Tier 3 levels of support when students are not progressing at an appropriate level.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you. That helps me understand it better and see that we have some supports coming along to help us. So that's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Marks. Student Trustee Kauai.
Thank you. So I had a question about the CASP testing environment support plan and that part of the next steps. That was something that we discussed at our last Inter-High Council meeting, just the idea of students being informed about CASP testing and being prepared and ready when that testing time rolls around. And so I was just wondering what system we currently have in place for students in terms of supporting in CASP testing, and then what, if we could get a rough idea of what the plans we're thinking for are for the future.
Sure. So we decided with those 6 coaches that we have that are now site-based coaches, we're kind of experimenting. So each site is different. So we have to look at the site individual needs. And the goal is to have our coaches, since they're at the site all the time, 24/7 really, is to identify, so what would be best for kids, the best testing environment. So do we need to pull some kids out because they need a quieter setting, they need longer time, they need support with the embedding of their supports? Help me out here. Designated supports, thank you. And so that's what we're kind of looking at with these coaches. So them working alongside the site administrator, determining what the site needs, how do we support kids, how do we pull kids differently in order to give them the best opportunity to really show what they've learned, because we do believe that sometimes it's not that students incapable of doing it, we just haven't necessarily set the right conditions for them. So this is really looking at what conditions are best for kids, because they really need to show us what they can actually do in the testing environment. It could be testing anxiety, it can be a lot of things.
And then outside of those schools that have those, and we're talking grades 3 through 6, our computer literacy teachers for the last, I don't know, probably since November, have been doing lessons on the format of the test and the kind of the mechanics, the logistics of that. They have kind of mini lessons that they'll do for those kids. When we say an IAB, that's one of the reasons that we do that, is to make sure students are familiar with the format and the logistics and the buttons of that. We do have the amazing IES team who has been working hard to train all the teachers and coaches so that they're aware how to support the kids. And then on top of that, we have the state, the CASP system has released like sample questions. And so a lot of what you'll see in maybe class warm-ups for the next couple of months, again, are kind of address the format. So, okay, maybe we learned whatever skill set, right? We learned how to combine fractions with unlike denominators. And this is how we saw it in class, but when you get to the assessment, it's gonna look like this, kind of making sure that they see that comparison between the two. Just, again, some samples of what we're working on.
Thank you. Trustee Brown.
I want to thank you for the presentation, and we're always looking at the English and the math and grade level performance, and worried about what the percentages are going to tell us at the end of the year, and how we get compared with the rest of the state, the rest of the nation, and how our individual groups within our total are performing. And it's really helpful for us to see how this data is driving what is happening within the district. And I really want to compliment those that are presenting it. It sounds like we're really digging deep into the details so that we can help individual students perform. I really like what Trustee Maestas was saying about this co-teaching model, and I'm wondering, how can we take concepts of what's working so well with the struggling students in our pre-algebra setting and helping them perform beyond what the expectations are for algebra for everybody else? How can we take that back to third grade, where we've got kids that are transitioning from a different way of thinking and different way of learning, and they've got language issues to go with it? Gosh, we know it's expensive. Co-teaching is not a cheap approach, but boy, does it produce results. What can we do in a co-teaching model in third and fourth grade where we're struggling and we have excuses for why it doesn't work and why we see a drop? Can't we put more effort into a co-teaching model for math for those kids, or for reading for those kids in that year, so that we can see the tremendous growth in future years to come?
So it's not in this report because we just started something, but I think we've got something in place that we'll give you some more communication on. It just started 2 weeks ago in regards to providing some tier 2 support with an extra body in the room for people to be able to pull small groups for math specifically. So we don't have any data or anything because we literally just started it. So we'll get that to you as we get more information.
Well, I can't wait to see it, because I love the idea of showing people what a destination district can do with the creative input of tremendous leaders like we're seeing tonight. So thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. I have a few questions, and one of those as well was on the co-teaching model and how that's working for our students who are struggling in math. And to me, that gives them a boost. That gives them some more personal attention in the classroom with their math teachers. And I just use myself an example. I had a co-teacher or somebody took the time to see that I was struggling in math. You know, I struggled in math all through school, all the way through college, you know, to the point where I couldn't take but one course, and which put me behind a semester in graduation, because I had to take that one college algebra course in order to make sure I pass it. So I couldn't have my focus on any other courses. I think if that would have been identified early on, like with some co-teaching or something like that, effective, that I could have done much better. So I applaud those efforts and the results of those fruits of your labor in that area, and the whole report in general. Other questions had to do with hiring retention. Have we got feedback or data on any of the exit strategies, or exit folks who have left the district, and understand why they left, what was the circumstances of their leaving, or anything like that?
Yes, we do evaluate that data. We could possibly bring it back at another time and share information later, but yes, we have a pretty high percentage of employees leaving that complete that survey and provide us feedback, a lot of positive feedback. There's you have to have a natural attrition through retirement, people, promoting to different careers maybe that aren't in education. Yeah, we can definitely look at that and share some information later.
And possibly so also on the retention rate, probably a comparison over a time period in terms of retention.
Sure,
what we do on that.
IATS built us a report now on retention that we're just working through and ensuring all the data is pulling in correctly, and we'll be able to have up to 5 years of data.
Okay, good, thank you. And then I have, also in terms of math, I had a parent ask me what does rigor mean in math? What does that translate to? And when they say, I hear that, oh, rigor in math, it's rigor.
Want the long answer or the short answer?
For the sake of time, but in understanding, I can use the short answer and explain it.
Rigor is an opportunity for students to engage in what we call a productive struggle. So they're being challenged, but they're not reaching a level of frustration that they just want to throw their hands up and give up. But it's allowing them to engage in a challenge. Sometimes rigor is a lot of problem solving, application, versus just doing straight calculations. And really applying all of the concepts and skills that they've acquired over a certain unit or chapter to really show that they have a solid understanding and understanding of what it is that the task is asking them to do.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, and thank you again for your report. At this point in time, we're going to have a break. I would say, boy, we're going to take a 5-minute break. 5-minute break, and we'll be back. Thank you.
I think we need to put the timer.
Oh, wait, no, no.
Are we ready? No, not yet.
All right, we'll continue our presentation.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Heather Contreras, Assistant Superintendent of School Leadership. And so far up until this point this evening, we've looked at a lot of student achievement data. That student achievement data leads directly into this goal, and that goal is our graduation goal. So our goal this year is to have a 98% graduation rate in 2024 and to decrease the dropout count by 10%. Some of the high leverage actions that we've engaged in this year and have completed the formation of is the creation of a graduation task force, an A through G committee at Downey, which is a pilot at Downey High School to examine A through G and getting that percentage up as well as the graduation rate. And that's a committee full of different educational partners at Downey High School. Enox is trying a pilot of what they're calling freshman intervention team meetings, and that is a focus on freshmen so that the minute a freshman begins to get a failing grade, it's all hands on deck. Many people are coming around that student, meeting with parents, meeting with teachers, and beginning the support system to get the student to continue to achieve at a high level. And then last year, I presented about our GRIT meetings. That's our graduation rate intervention team meetings that happen at each school site. We're in our third year of that process, and this year we added our MVA to really look at the students in MVA. How are they progressing towards graduation, and what can we do to help and support to raise that percentage? Some ongoing actions that we're doing is our 4-year planning and school links, and you'll be hearing a board report about that in a subsequent board meeting. 4-year planning is so that students know exactly what courses they're going to be taking that would lead to graduation, but also to A through G. It is an online program, and right now we have a high percentage of our students engaged in that work. We're also leveraging the expertise that we have right here at our fingertips in Modesto City Schools to help to locate students who have dropped from attending our schools. Sometimes that's because a student moved out of the area and we have not yet received information that they've enrolled at their new school of attendance. Sometimes it's students who have just stopped going for another reason, maybe home and hospital has been extended. But we're working diligently to find those students, to have conversations even on their doorstep if that's the way we need to meet them, and to get them re-enrolled in school. Any kind of program that would help them to meet that graduation goal. We continue to work on equity-based grading. We have many different strategies within equity-based grading that are happening across our school sites. We've increased our intercession offerings in summer school. And then we're monitoring the new implementation of a multi-tier system of support at Johansen High School. It's looking very promising. What that is in the school day, within the school day, is an intervention period so that students get the help right when they need it. And it is working to prevent those dropouts, failures, DNF grades, and supporting students just in time. We're also planning for the expansion of our ELOP opportunities in 9th through 12th grade. Here are key performance indicators that we're using to see if all of these different strategies I just showed you are helping to make a difference. And you see all the green there. What this is we look at students at the mid-year. How many students do we have that are potential dropouts? The data that is shown shows where we were at last year at this time, as opposed to where we're at this year at this time, and you could see that there is significant improvement. At the bottom of a little asterisk that says 159 students are enrolled right now, but not consistently attending. We are closely tracking and working with those 159 students to get them returning back to school so that they'll be able to graduate. Another key performance indicator that is is truly important is our DNF rate. If students are not passing classes, they're not going to graduate. So we closely monitor in those GRIT meetings and multiple times throughout the year with the access to the great data and easy data at our fingertips that we now have, how are students performing in school and what does that DNF rate look like? You could see from last year at this time to this year at this time, we have improved our DNF rate. It is lower. Less students are earning Ds and Fs. We have less ELs earning Ds and Fs and less students with disabilities earning Ds and Fs as well. Promising data. Some of the next steps that we'll be doing as we progress through this year is to continue the grading for equity journey. So we continue to promote that, work with teachers on that, educate ourselves on what that looks like and what our best practices. We have launched a Beyond Traditional Grading website. We're really excited about this. This is a resource for teachers so that if they're interested in trying some new practices in their classroom around grading, different teaching strategies that are like mastery-based teaching strategies, there's a website with 3 different options that they can go to and get resources on and supports as they progress along that journey. We're also exploring grading practices within our own policies. So how can some policies support what we're doing for our students? We're continuing to have our GRIT meetings. We focus on those DNF rates and how we can help and put actions and strategies in place to improve that. We look at attendance and discipline during those GRIT meetings as well, because that plays heavily into the graduation rate. And we focus on our ELs and students with disabilities, as well as other student groups that we know are sometimes struggling. That way we know students by name, we know students by their challenges, and we put supports in place as soon as we can. We're continuing to work on what we lovingly call Operation Find 'Em. So that's going out and finding where our students are when they stop attending and doing it very, very soon. 3 days absent, where are you? We miss you. Let's get you back in school. If you're sick, how can we get your work to you? Some tutoring or some extra supports. We are training our attendance liaisons in some great strategies that we're learning that are proving to be very effective in getting students back to school. And then we continue to focus on our dropout student stories and options. And by that I mean knowing every student who is on our list as a potential dropout, what are their barriers, and then how do we help and work to improve those barriers. And with that, I'm going to introduce Danielle Hinkle, who's a Senior Director of School Leadership, who in tandem with graduation, we have college and career readiness, and so she's gonna look at those network goals.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to share out the work in progress in the area of college and career readiness. Our goal in this area is for 50% or more of the seniors in the class of 2024 to achieve the prepared status on the College and Career Readiness Indicator, which we lovingly call the CCI, which is part of the California Dashboard's public data site. I do want to share that the most recent year of data that we have is for the class of 2023, last year's seniors. At that time, we had 31% of our seniors demonstrating the prepared status. And of special note, the state had a hiatus on reporting that data. And so 2023 was the first time it was reported in 4 years. So we're getting back to the work of college and career readiness. To put things in perspective a bit for the CCI indicator, the state of California has identified these measures that you see on this slide, and they look at each individual student's progress in each of these areas, whether that be passing IB or AP exams, whether or not the student completed A through G requirements, did they earn a qualifying score on Smarter Balanced CASP assessments, and others. You can see those various areas there. And to make things a little more complicated, the state takes these measures, these indicators, if you will, and then applies a very complex process. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on this graphic, but let me just walk you through 2 little things here. First and foremost, if you were to look on the far left in yellow, one of the pathways to be deemed prepared at the end of high school is to earn the state seal of biliteracy and, moving down, also earn a qualifying score on the Smarter Balanced assessments. The reason I wanted you to see this graphic is you can see that of all those indicators, many of them have additional qualifiers, meaning that you have to achieve more than just one thing, like the state seal of biliteracy, to be deemed prepared. The second thing I wanted to mention on this graphic, in the middle, you'll see sort of a blue, purple, and then a bright pink area. Those are standalone metrics, if you will. And I'll be sharing a little bit more in just a moment, but specifically the purple, the college credit courses. We have a lot of great work going on in this area to expand opportunities for our high school students to take and earn college credits during the school day while they're in high school. That is a standalone area and one that we feel like we could, over time, get a lot of bang for the buck, so to speak, in getting many more students at that prepared level. Our high leverage actions, there have been many. The two that I want to highlight specifically tonight are, first and foremost, expanding those dual credit early college offerings at all of our high schools. I'll talk a little bit more in detail about what that looks like. And also the implementation of School Links. You heard Dr. Contreras mention that a few moments ago. That is our digital college and career readiness platform. The board did hear a report on School Links back in November, and we do have some good progress monitoring data to share with you in just a moment. Speaking of progress monitoring in the area of college and career readiness, the first area that we have been closely looking at is related to students who are working their way through a dual credit course. As you know or are aware, we have had for many, many years the Davis Middle College program. We also have Elliott that has two different partnerships with Modesto Junior College, where students can earn dual credits both in high school and in college. Those have been ongoing for a number of years. This year, we expanded and added a pilot at both Downey and Bayer High School that we are calling Early College. And again, it's a dual credit option during the school day. So students are taking courses as part of their regular school day at their high school and earning both high school and college credit. So this year we have the pilot, and then next year looking to expand that out to all high schools so that they have that early college dual credit option. If we're looking at data just comparing the last 2 years, you can see the significant increase in the number of students enrolled and earning the qualifying grade of C or better in their dual credit classes. Our English learners have improved a bit, while students with disabilities has been relatively flat, so we'll need to explore some strategies to get more of our students with disabilities engaged in those opportunities. The next progress monitoring area is that with regard to the 4-year plan development in School Links. As mentioned, we really just kicked School Links off in the fall of this year. We had our first deep dive and training for counselors in October. Students started engaging in the development of their 4-year course plans and a digital platform at the end of October. And we are thrilled to see that we already have over 9,000 high school students who have completed and submitted their preliminary 4-year plan, developed their plan, submitted it to their counselor for review. And I would say that our process involves all students, those who are English learners, those who have an IEP, students with disabilities, and you're probably wondering, well, what about the other 30% of the kids? Our counselors are continuing to work with students this spring through their course selection and balloting process to shore up the development of those 4-year plans and make sure that those are submitted for review. And then the third area that we are monitoring really involves students who are working through a CTE pathway in high school. That is one of the elements of the CCI, or College Career Readiness Indicator. And for this particular data point, we are looking specifically at the students that are in the capstone course of the pathway. That's the final course in the pathway. We have had a big increase this year compared to last year, over 400 students more taking and completing that pathway course with a qualifying grade of C- or higher. And even though I do not have a slide on it today, my network team and I have determined that in addition to just looking at the capstone course, we also want to monitor making sure that students are taking the appropriate courses in that pathway. It's not good enough to just take the capstone. You have to take the appropriate course prior to that. So we'll be monitoring that as well. Next step options, or our next steps. First off, really just the ongoing focus with the Modesto City Schools instructional core. And this is really about our work in improving instruction and PLC practices that are needed to ensure that students are academically prepared and ready for success once they leave our high schools. We've heard a lot today about rigor and looking at data and data dives. That is all intertwined with the Modesto City Schools instructional core. As already mentioned, we're increasing the early college dual credit offerings to all high school sites for the fall of 2024, or this coming fall. We need to continue with our professional development and increased awareness of all of the various elements of the CCI. Those two graphics that I showed you a little earlier are paramount for counselors and our teachers as they work with students to really understand the nuances involved in demonstrating their preparedness. We're pretty excited. Our SchoolLinks platform has a monitoring tool for students and counselors to see if students are on track for the CCI. So for example, if a student did take their 2 early college dual credit courses, it would show that they have met the prepared status already. And so we're excited to go live with that here very soon. We're almost ready. We are also planning to have additional professional development to expand our 4-year planning with students to 6-year planning, which means it'll start in junior high school. So really getting students thinking about the courses that they're taking in junior high school, even though it's a pretty standard approach in junior high school, but really thinking about what their life after junior high is going to look like. And then last but not least, we really want to closely monitor as students are selecting their classes for next year and schools are beginning to develop their master schedules. We want to have a close eye on ensuring that students are completing their CTE pathway, meaning that they are taking the next subsequent course needed, and as well as bolster our military leadership pathway or junior ROTC, as well as our A through G completion rates. Next up, it is my pleasure to introduce Rachel Barkus, Senior Director of Educational Options.
Okay, good evening. So my presentation will be on the Educational Options Network. So as you know, Educational Options is a large department with a lot of different initiatives, and so we chose 2 different initiatives to look at for this particular year. First of all, our goals are the percentage of MBA students meeting or exceeding standards on the CASP will increase by 10%. And number 2, increase the number of adult education graduates, diploma and high school equivalency to 200 or more for the 2023-24 school year. Our baseline was last year in 2023, we had 119 adult ed graduates. In educational options, our high leverage actions have been to increase targeted support and intervention for students. We've done that through providing learning labs, providing schooly tutoring online, and extended summer school for our MBA students specifically. Additionally, we've created systems to better track our student data within the MBA program, including start dates, processing, how long it's taking us to process students, and their attendance in real time. We've also started quarterly MBA GRIP meetings like our counterparts at the comprehensive sites to really get down and look at the data and to review adult ed graduation requirements. For our progress monitoring for MVA, an indicator for CASP is passing grades. And so we're looking at the student F rate for 712 students in semester 1. This chart represents the student F rate, meaning the number of students that have received at least one F in the first semester. As you can see, we've had a decrease in our F rate over the last year in MVA, and our students are performing at about the same rate as our comprehensive sites. Progress monitoring for adult education. We're excited about our increase in adult education graduates. Last year, in January, we only had 5. This year, in January, we are at over 10 times that amount with 65 graduates in the month of January of this year. So we're on track to beat the goal of 200 graduates. And with that said, we would like to invite everyone to the adult ed graduation, which is going to be on Friday, May 24th at Enox High School. So we outgrew the Peterson Event Center that we did our graduation in last year, and we're excited that we're going to be at a comprehensive venue. Thank you. Next steps. We're going to be utilizing the program analysis that is currently being conducted to improve MVA and to build an effective regional model. We have a consultant who's been coming to visit with us and talk with our teachers, our classified staff, and to learn more about the MVA program and what we can do to improve for our students. We are going to be building stronger parent and guardian partnerships for MVA students to better support their students at home, as this is an independent study program. We are looking to train our MVA staff on curriculum resources to support struggling learners, specifically ELs and students with disabilities. And we are going to build on the GRIP process and start implementing MVA benchmark data dives with teachers. And last but not least, we will be developing an adult ed sustainability plan so that we can leverage our resources to their capacity. And with that, I will hand it over to Network Lead Dave Hauk, Senior Director of Child Welfare and Attendance.
Thank you.
Good evening. This evening I will be speaking about increasing student attendance and enrollment. This year, Modesto City Schools set a district-wide attendance goal of 96%. We are participating in the county-wide attendance campaign and an attendance campaign within MCS, including site-to-site attendance challenges, attendance incentives, and increased SART, which is a site attendance review team, with a focus on removing barriers and using empathy. Along with increasing attendance, we're focused on increasing student enrollment. We've set a district-wide goal of an increase of 2% in this area. To support this, we're working on conducting empathy interviews and analyzing trends, working with our communication department to support our enrollment campaign, reducing wait lists for before and after school programs, and exploring expanded learning opportunities for high school students. Overall, student enrollment is up 252 students year over year to date, with double the amount increase in K-8 compared to 9-12. In the area of student attendance, our overall rate is currently 93.23%, an increase of around 2% over last year. Our elementary schools are slightly above 2%, and our junior high and high schools are slightly below. Attendance data from our student groups indicates an increase in all areas, with the exception of high school students with disabilities. This slide includes our next steps. We have already made good progress with a significant increase in attendance during the first week back from winter break, a traditionally low point for us. We've also planned additional media information on enrollment and the benefits and advantages of attending Modesto City Schools. We are increasing Saturday school opportunities, and we are rolling out a more user-friendly, updated enrollment system. We will also be working on identifying specific students within our SELPA to provide supports to increase their attendance. Next, I'd like to introduce Ms. Mady Herrera, Director of Parent and Engagement Outreach. Thank you, Mady.
Well, thank you. Good evening.
Our goals are to continue the development of parent and student surveys and forums to support feedback, engagement, and collaboration in district and site decision-making. High leverage actions. Some of our current actions are to increase collaboration with departments and sites, measure parent participation and gather feedback, and to leverage student councils to foster student engagement and advocacy by participating in Hanover student surveys and collaborative projects. In support of increasing collaboration with departments and sites, we would like to highlight our Parents Make a Difference. As you may recall, we implemented this program in West and South Modesto last year, focusing on how does a district work. A 6-part series of open parent forums, a program that was implemented to share the many ways that parents can advocate for themselves and their children. New this year, we expanded this program to Northeast Modesto, and we also created site-based Parents Make a Difference. To date, a total of 18 site-based programs have been delivered, providing a platform for site administrators to engage parents, ensuring their voices are heard, and provide insight on how parents can actively participate in the decision-making process, which was shared through an in-depth discussion about various site and district-level opportunities available to them. This approach helps parents understand the opportunities for involvement and underscores the significance of their engagement in the community. Some of the current progress monitoring includes parent sign-in data by school sites for in-person and virtual events, PEO parent survey to date, and Hanover's parent survey currently in progress, and the new Hanover student survey. Hanover student survey. In terms of student voice, we administered a student climate survey this year for the first time. The survey gathers students' perceptions on safety, belonging, and a number of other factors. The district will receive an executive summary from Hanover and will be developing actions based on student feedback. This slide shows the total number of students who took the survey by grade. The survey this year was delivered through prep providers in grades 3 through 6 and through Schoology in grades 7 through 12. As you can see, while only 20% of our student population took the survey, we do believe the results will be helpful in gathering trends in student perceptions at the school site. This year, the survey was voluntary. Next year, we will work to ensure our students take the survey during their school schedules. Parent participation. To date, we've held multiple events in person and virtually, offered in both English and Spanish. This slide shows PEO's parent participation captured per school site for an overall total of 2,862. I would like to note that this data is our department data for PEO and does not include school data for events specifically held at their site, but that's not to say that they do not have parent engagement, as we know that they do. Also, our efforts to capture district-wide site data is beneficial for us so we can be more intentional with our outreach and seeing how we can collaborate and support sites in their efforts to increase parent engagement. Parent satisfaction survey data, we asked the question, did the parent forums and or workshops increase your knowledge awareness on the topic being presented? Based on PEO data post-events, 96% of parents who completed surveys, 553 to date, indicated very satisfied or satisfied that the forums and or workshops increased their knowledge awareness on topics being presented. Another question we asked was, do you feel the information awareness presented supports your child's care and education? A question which is also closely in line with our Hanover survey that is currently in progress. Based on PEO data post-events, out of the 442 parents who completed this question to date, 99% of parents indicated yes, that the information that was presented supports their child's care and education, which is very welcoming data, as we have provided many events with in-depth discussions on various areas of interest. And to mention just a few topics, they were special education, school safety, understanding A through G, social emotional topics, financial aid, higher education, and much more. Our next steps will include the student survey distribution and follow-up of 3 additional surveys, planning of student advisory council projects, continued parent forums and engagement opportunities at site and district levels, and the Hanover Parent Survey that went out at the end of January. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Herrera. That brings us to our public comment period. Are there any comments from the public on this agenda item? Any public comments on this agenda item? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the board? We have Trustee Brown.
Yes, a couple of quick questions. First of all, with regard to the pilot for dual credit courses that we're operating, are the instructors required to complete specific qualifications to be able to teach those courses? And is there a special curriculum that has to be used that's different from what they would be teaching in standard courses at the high schools?
Yeah, so to be minimally qualified to teach a course through Modesto Junior College to our students, they have to have at least a master's degree in their single subject area. So for example, you would need a master's degree in mathematics to teach any math dual enrollment course to our students through Modesto Junior College.
So are we limited in our supply, in our ability to teach those courses?
We are looking at different models, various models to deliver opportunities for dual enrollment courses. So for example, we don't have as many master's degree individual, single subject credentialed folks as we do in other areas. So we're looking at how might we deliver the opportunities in a different model. Have a facilitator, maybe an MJC teacher teaching the course, asynchronous, across all of the different content areas. So we're looking at multiple models to scale it out.
Great, thank you. And how about curriculum? Is it similar curriculum to what is being taught in the regular high school course?
We work with the instructors to identify the curriculum. It is a Modesto Junior College course, so the course outlines give the instructor some latitude as to which curriculum they will use for those college credit courses.
Thank you. And then I'm curious about the increase that we've seen in the numbers for our adult education programs this year. Where are those additional people coming from? Are they our own non-graduates, or are they people in the community that are just aware that we're offering it?
It's a combination of the two. I'm going to bring Anthony up here since he's the one who is intimately involved with our adult education program, and I'm sure that he has that data for you.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, so it's going to be a mixture of those. If I could pull that up, but I can report back to see how many exactly are coming from our in-district schools. We are gathering that on our internal spreadsheets, so I can have that for you next time.
Great, and then I've got a question that leads into our parent engagement. With regard to our outreach, I'm thoroughly impressed with how many more parent engagement opportunities we have. Are we able to reach out to parents who do not have high school graduation and encourage them to get involved in our adult ed programs?
Yes, we do some of that outreach, definitely. We like to share a lot of the programs with our parents as well. So we definitely outreach in a way especially through our parent ambassador program. We also reach out just recently at our open house. You were able to find a lot of that information that's available out there for Modesto City Schools for our parents.
Because it feels to me like that one of the best ways for us to encourage our students to learn is for the parents to actively be learning themselves. And so anything that we can do to encourage that is really going to benefit our students tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. Trustee Daly?
I'm just curious. I was sitting here thinking, I think I have a grasp on the umbrella of students with disabilities. However, there may be some people watching or listening that do not. So can we clarify that a little bit more? What constitutes a student with disabilities?
It'd be a student that has an individualized education program who qualifies under one of the handicapping conditions.
So that would be educational only and not necessarily physical?
It would be educational in terms of ed code eligibility, but it could be a physical disability that finds you eligible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Daly. Student Trustee Akwai.
Thank you. I just want to say first, I'm incredibly encouraged by the amazing work being done just in the college and career readiness sector. But I did have a question regarding our next steps, whether or not we could consider including SAT and ACT prep courses in either as an enrichment, summer program thing. I think that that's something that even though lots of schools are test optional, many students are still interested in taking those tests. They can get scholarships and things, and I can do a survey to see sort of what the demand is for that kind of course as well, but I just think that'd be a wonderful thing for our district to support students with.
Your vision was heard last time, so yes, we have expanded learning, looking at that potential opportunity.
Okay,
Yep.
great, thank you.
Thank you, Student Trustee Akwai. Vice President Maestas.
All right, yeah, you're being heard, right? And back to something Trustee Brown noticed about the adult ed. I'm going to give some of this credit to Anthony because, you know, he was hired a little while back, and this is a growth that we've seen. So I'm going to give him his due on this, that I think some of these numbers has to do with him in particular. The dual enrollment courses. Also, Trustee Brown, here's an example. My son is interested in ASL. I am so happy that we have that course as an offering for kids. It's been like Spanish. It's been like the only other language. And then various times we've had like French and Portuguese and other languages. But to have American Sign Language as an option, I guess the MJC professor will come on campus 3 days a week, and they'll learn that way, and then 2 days a week is with another instructor.
Well, we'll need to sort that out once we identify the course requests, the ballots for each site to understand the capacity. So again, going back to the delivery model will be dictated by the staff that we have in each of the content areas available to teach the course.
Right. I guess it just comes back to the fact that these dual enrollment and dual credit courses allow us some more possibilities for our kids. And American Sign Language is one that is pretty awesome. So I appreciate that. In the next steps for our graduation, it says explore grading practices within our policies. You don't have to give examples now, but I'd like to know maybe a couple of examples of what you mean by within the policy and explore grading practices. You can say now, or board communication would be fine. Yeah, that's later. Just some examples would be good. And I had one more. Oh, I just thought the enrollment numbers and the monitoring of our attendance is very encouraging. So I think we just keep at it, and I think we'll get there. So really good, great, encouraging numbers on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Vice President Maestas. Trustee Mejia.
Yeah, mine was a little bit of a follow-up to Brown and Maestas. Do we have, I know for adult education, do we have enough teachers and do we have enough resources allocated to be able to graduate more students? Because we can have a lot more students. Do we have enough resources to be able to pay whoever's teaching them? Because you got there's a lot of people, but do we have that? And are we matching whatever amount we want to increase to the teachers or whatever, however they get funded? Do we have enough of that to be able to increase the numbers? It's good for us to say increase it, but are we putting do we have enough resources? Do we need to get them somewhere else to put them towards that department? Just a question. I don't know if now or later. I just
So something that I can say just quickly, and we're going to be going into a budget presentation, adult education is not funded by the state. So TK-12 is what's funded, so the resources that we're putting to adult education is coming out of that. So we really just need to continue to take a look at our budgets and where we're at with our budgets and keep alignment, but we have to be vigilant in ensuring that our TK-12 have what they need to be successful. However, we have invested greatly in adult ed to this point.
Trustee Marks.
Yeah, so many great data points in this one. Just all the increases in college and career readiness and then the adult ed. That was like, wow, I didn't realize we had so many, even though we'll see where we're headed with that. And then I really like that our 50% of our seniors are prepared for college and career. I mean, that's huge. So, that was our goal. But we still had 31%, so that's really good. So I know we've made some progress in that area and in so many other areas too. I marked a bunch of them. So I did have a question on the graduation goal. I know we had 89% last year, and then have we made some progress? Do we know, have we made improvement in that? Do we believe, because we said that these students, the seniors, were doing really well. Are we continuing on? Are we going to increase it from 89%? That's what my question is.
So the data that was in the key performance indicators there are indicating that we are moving on track to progress that number forward.
Okay, good. And I thought it was, and then I was like, I didn't find it, but anyway.
Early indicators are promising.
Yes, they are. Okay, good. That's what I was hoping. All right, that's what now just looking at it, because I know 2020 we took a big hit, dropped down pretty low, and so I'm watching us climb back up. So it's great to see that. So that's all I had.
Thank you, Trustee Marks. We have Trustee Lopez.
Yeah, I didn't have much of a question, but I would have liked to seen the G230 and TOPS programs illustrate a little bit more within the parameters of the data that was mentioned. So I would like to see, I don't know when we have presentation on that on both those, but I would like to see data around it.
Thank you, Trustee Lopez. I have a couple questions myself. One, in the graduation network goal, high leverage action. One, I want to know how you describe high leverage actions, and two, where it says ongoing leverage of district expertise for students who dropped. And what would that resources of district expertise, who are we referring to?
So the high leverage actions are actions that we know if they're successful, are really going to make a big difference in moving that data forward and having better outcomes for students. For using our district expertise, later on in that presentation, I talked about training for attendance liaisons on some strategies that we're finding that help us to locate students. That's one way. We also have some talent that we've hired into the district that have some skill in finding students and knowing how to do a search when we're not able to locate them after usually it's after they've moved out of our district, and they haven't re-enrolled in another school, and we're worried about them. We want to find them, we want to get them re-enrolled, but sometimes that can be hard to do, and there's certain approaches that you can take to help in that location.
Okay, thank you. And also, how many interventions have been done by the freshman intervention team?
I do not have access to that data, but I can get it for you.
Okay, please, thank you. And and 50% of seniors in the class of 2024 is the goal. What are some of the, to use the terminology, high leverage actions are undertaken to help us achieve that goal for 2024?
So if we're thinking about how students demonstrate their preparedness, and again, that's based on the California dashboard, CCI indicator, this very complex chart. Many of the items here have more than one criteria for a student to demonstrate their preparedness. And the example I gave was, it's not just enough to have the state seal of biliteracy, but you also have to have that qualifying score on Smarter Balance. And so there are many, many high leverage actions, shoring up our professional learning communities, ensuring strong instructional practices in the classroom, many, many things there. But the high leverage actions that I wanted to highlight were those centered around two things. One was increasing the college dual credit offerings at our high schools. That is one area of the CCI that does not have a second criteria attached to it. So if a student were to take 2 college credit courses during their high school and earn a C or better, they are automatically then prepared according to the calculations by the state for the CCI. So that was one of the high leverage actions that I wanted to highlight. And the second one was really just this greater understanding by students and staff in our messaging that high school is more than just getting a high school diploma. It is really about expanding our awareness of all of the opportunities afforded to us after high school, whether that be learning a skill or a trade in maybe one of our CTE pathway programs to help prepare us for a career, whether it's expanding our knowledge and our access to being able to go to a 4-year college or university after high school. Maybe that's meeting the A through G requirements, having successful scores on AP and IB exams, et cetera. But really just helping support students in that greater awareness. So the development of the 4-year plan is the first step of that, but School Links, which was our second high leverage action there to highlight, really has a plethora of information, college awareness activities within that platform, self-assessments for students to learn more about their strengths, what they're good at, and what is that alignment with the classes that I'm taking in high school. And again, not to just earn a high school diploma, but to really be prepared for life after high school. That was probably a lot more than you wanted to hear, but I'm passionate about it.
Well, I'm well informed now. And the last question I have relates to, do we have the data? Do we have the data from 2019? I see it at the last time it was presented was 2019, and then we got 31% in 2023. Is there a comparison to see which way do we go on that scale from up?
We were slightly down a bit in 2023. If I remember correctly, our 2019 data was around 34% demonstrating preparedness, so we could get you the exact number. So we did have a dip between 2019 and 2023 data. Many reasons why that may have occurred, but we did have a dip.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify, there was no data reported in that area between 2019 and 2023.
Right, I thought the last was reported in 2019.
It was.
Yes.
Right, and so I was just thinking, between 2023 and 2019, what was the difference? So
And
you're-
again, not to go too far down a rabbit hole, but for example, during COVID, we did not administer the CASP assessment. That was not required by the state, and so that's one of the qualifying features on some of those elements in the CCI, so the state felt it wasn't appropriate to report out that data.
Okay, thank you, that clarifies it. And last thing, I know you're giving a kudos to Mr. Little there too. I'd like to give kudos to the partnership between Mr. Littles and Mr. Jorge Perez in that partnership to expand that, as I was kind of in the loop on some of that was happening. So that partnership between those two gentlemen.
Definitely, I appreciate that. And there's other people behind the scenes. Ruth Solorio was another staff member that we added, Jeanette Zaborski, and also my supervisor, Rachel Barkis, has been integral in us expanding our program and being able to serve a lot of students. And also our alt ed teaching staff, who has services a lot of our adult diploma students. So it's all a team. We're all working together. Thank you.
Teamwork, that's great. Thank you. Yes, Vice President Maestas.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing. There's a lot of great positive stuff here and growth for our district and good, really, really good things happening just from the time that I've been on the board. And that is a lot to say about all you all and all the work that you've been doing, all of the hard work, all of the boots on the ground. You are making this district a better district for our kids. So I appreciate all of the work that you all are doing. Aside from the report, just all of the work, hard work every day. So thank you so much.
And feel free to take some of this to the district next door over there too, series. Some of this great stuff. And I like to reiterate that as well. I agree with Vice President Maestas doing a great job. Data. I don't think in the 14 years I served in the district, I don't think I ever saw as much data drive success as I've seen since I've been on the board here. And so it's all about the data. We can see it, we can feel it, and we can move with it. So I really appreciate that. The innovation that has come to Modesto City Schools in the last 6 years. Definitely a new era. So thank you. Next, we move on to B5, the governor's 2024-25 governor's budget proposal. Our speaker is Mr. Zierli.
Hey, don't leave yet. Oh, all right.
Notice nobody's leaving from this side of the room.
Thank you. On January 17th, representatives from the Modesto Teachers Association, California School Employees Association joined district administration to hear school services present the governor's budget proposal for 24-25. Now, this is just the beginning of the budget development process that'll go on for the next 5 months. But this is the starting point for us. It allows us the data or the information to estimate the types and amounts of revenues to project for our next budget year, 24-25. My goal with this presentation is to be brief, as my colleagues would probably want me to be, but we did attend a 4-hour presentation that contained 105 slides, so I've tried to condense it to what I think is important from the presentation from your perspective as Board of Trustees. School Services of California allows us, those that pay to go to the presentation, allows us to use their slides. So you will see some slides with our logo on it, some with theirs. It's just an opportunity for us to quickly prepare it for a board presentation. This is our why, the MCS vision. You just heard everything up to this point explain what is our why. In our budget, this year, next year, and future years has to support our why. And it is directly aligned with everything you just heard in the presentation and up to now in this board meeting. It aligns with our strategic goal 4. Obviously, ensuring the district is fiscally and operationally sound, our budget has to represent that, or else nothing that we heard we will be able to continue on without aligning to this particular strategic goal. The pandemic budgets that we've seen in the past are now gone. At the same time, we are experiencing slow growth in our national and state economies. The governor's budget proposal focuses on maintaining our existing programs while trimming others. We will be closely monitoring the economy over the next few months to see if there are going to be any necessary changes at the May revision. We'll talk more about the timeline at the end of this presentation. Currently, the governor projects a $37.9 billion budget deficit, and to balance that deficit without negatively impacting education funding, the governor is relying on one-time reserves and other funding reductions for next year. Thankfully, the state is better prepared for this financial downturn than what we experienced in 07-08 and also 12-13 due to a strong level of reserves that the state did not have during those financial downturns. However, due to a delay in filing income taxes for the 2022 year, the state did not know that there was a $26 billion shortfall until all returns were filed for the 22 tax year in November of 23. So the good news is we're better prepared. However, the bad news is there's a rather large shortfall of tax revenues based on the 22-23 year. We're grateful that the governor's not proposing any new cuts or deferrals to K-12 education core programs, but the projected COLA for 24-25 is now estimated to be 0.76%, down from current 8.22% in 23-24. Despite $12 billion in less revenue collected for 22-23 and 23-24 combined, the governor is not, as I mentioned earlier, proposing any negative impacts to Proposition 98. Currently, like cuts, deferrals, or sweeps, all things we have heard in the past during prior economic downturns. The 24-25 state budget deficit is based upon the $12 billion drop in revenues. And again, if you recall, during the severity of the flooding, during the 23 winter months, the federal and state governments delayed filing of 22 income taxes until November 23, 7 months later than the established deadline. And so the state is now utilizing one-time funding to cover this deficit and fully fund the anticipated 0.76% local control funding formula COLA augmentation. However, continued volatility in government spending and the performance of Wall Street are a risk to education funding. The estimated 0.76% COLA assumes no increase in the cost of goods and services governments buy for the last quarter of 23 and the first quarter of 24, and that is not likely. If these final 2 quarters change the calculation for the final COLA amount, the state may not be able to afford the higher percentage if it does come in higher than currently 0.76. Again, unlike prior volatile economic times, the state has one-time reserves available to prevent proposed budget year reductions. Withdrawals from the public school system stabilization account is an attempt from the governor to not regain prior year revenue deficits. The COLA factor, 0.76, is applied to base grants. In addition to these local control funding areas, grade span adjustments, supplemental and concentration grants, and unduplicated pupil percentage. And you'll see here on this slide the impact of the proposed 0.76 COLA on the base grants. So just reading from the top, if it's a TK through 3rd grade student, We are currently funded at $9,919 base grant. And we'll have a $75 COLA added to that amount for next year, represented by 0.76. So and you can see that how that's impacted across the grade spans. As mentioned earlier, the statutory COLA is not related to the state's fiscal health. I know this is kind of confusing, but it is calculated using federal aggregated metrics. The final percent is calculated using 8 quarters of spending data for state and federal government agencies. While the reversal of historical price increases that occurred in 2022 is welcomed, consumer prices still remain relatively high. As we know, every time we go to the gas station or the grocery store or really anywhere else. However, the COLA calculation is based upon a rate of change from one year to the next, irrespective of how high or low consumer prices are. Due to slowing inflation, prices are not increasing at the same historic levels they were in 21 and the first half of 22, which means government agencies are not spending at the same levels that they were spending in those years. And so that is the federal metric that is used in determining the COLA calculation. It doesn't have anything to do with inflation or the consumer price index. And you can see on this slide, just going back to June of 23, so when the budget was adopted a little over 6 months ago, the estimated COLA based on the metrics at that point in time were 3.94%. For the budget year 24-25, 3.29% for 25-26, and 3.19% for 26-27. Fast forward now that we know almost all of the data used for that calculation, it's 0.76, 2.73, and 3.11. And then you can see the differences of the decrease from budget adoption a year ago to now with the governor's budget proposal for next year. Up here. This sample district of 10,000 student average daily attendance, and so just using what I just showed you on the prior slide, the green dotted line on top is using the prior year or the prior COLA estimates that were part of the 23-24 budget adoption, and then now the red line at the bottom is now with the new assumptions that were generated in the governor's budget proposal. For us, I mean, this is a sample district for us. The change in COLA calculation for 24-25 and 25-26, which is the 2 years of our multi-year projection for the current year, is about $28 million less for our district. So those numbers that you saw, the red numbers, percentage decreases on the prior slide, represents just from our first interim report we gave you with a multi-year projection. Now at our second interim report that you will see coming up in March, there's $28 million less in revenue for those years than what we had assumed in the prior multi-year projection. We utilize this financial dartboard from school services for building next year's budget and future years of the multi-year projection. Just kind of highlighted some areas just for you to see. The planning COLA is the first highlighted line. That's what we use now. That's what we will use in any budget projections going forward. So if you want to know what are we calculating for those future years, that's right there. And you can compare that to the California CPI. So once 25-26 comes, it's kind of more in line. The consumer price index is more in line with the calculated COLA. But I also have highlighted the CalPERS employer rate. In the current year, 26.68%. And going out to 27-28, that increases to 30.3%. We're fortunate, this shows CalSTRS, and so the governor does not, again, propose any funding for pension rate increases, but we're very fortunate here in that there's no increases projected for CalSTRS. This is for our certificated employees. The majority of our credential staff are enrolled in CalSTRS for their retirement, and so we're very happy to see that plateau at 19.1% for the next 2 years. The governor does not again propose any funding for CalPERS either. And then again, as I showed you, this will show you we're going from current year 26.68% to 30.1% in 28-29. So this will is a cost pressure on our budget, and it's one that 0.76% funded COLA will not be enough to go towards this, as well as our other cost pressure increases in addition to that. Although we won't know officially until March of 24, so we're about a month, maybe a month and a half away, we expect the school district reserve cap to remain in effect for the 24-25 year. That means we are held to 10% reserve cap for our district based on this listed education code 42127.01. We won't know for sure, but this slide shows, I believe this slide shows that the governor's current proposed budget, estimating the reserve for this year, 23-24, is currently enough at 5.4% to make the cap go into effect for the next fiscal year. So the way it works is the next fiscal year is based on the current year. So if that were to drop, if something were to happen over the next couple months, the governor would need to dip more into the reserves to balance the budget for next year. This reserve cap may not be in effect, but right now, based on the assumptions we know, we will again be held to the 10% reserve cap. You heard earlier discussion about our transitional kindergarten expansion. This will be the third year of that, 24-25, and you'll see there it will include 4-year-olds who turn 5 between September 2nd and June 2nd. So this is the third year of a 4-year implementation for universal transitional kindergarten, and this just shows you that that is part of the governor's proposal. We've introduced this to you before. We're also coming to the deadline of one-time funds, and as the prior slides, as I noted and we heard, the governor and state of California is using one-time funds to balance their budget. We have not decided to do that. We've put these one-time funds to increasing services to our students, and so, but there are deadlines to these funds. The funds will come to an end, and you'll see what ends September 30th of 24, June 30th of 26, and the final COVID relief funds, the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, will expire in June 30th of 28. In addition to the one-time funds expiring beginning in 25-26, COVID projections for ADA, for average daily attendance, our calculation are gone. We also heard earlier that we're participating in an attendance campaign, and trying to get back to pre-COVID attendance levels, but the projections we have are gone, and the 21-22 adjusted attendance yield. So what happened that year, the state allowed us to use pre-COVID attendance yields for our current year attendance, and it resulted in a one-time increase to our funded ADA. And so 21-22 now is part of our 3-year average. We have 21-22, 22-23, and 23-24. We compare that 3-year average to the current year, but beginning next year, that 21-22 bump will be gone. And so there's also, not only is it in the best interest of the students to be attending school, it's also in the best interest of the financial aspects of our district to return to those prior year attendance levels as well. This is just comments from the legislature about the governor's budget proposal. The first one is a statement from Democratic legislative leaders, and then this one is a counter agreement from Republican leaders regarding the governor's budget proposal. Just an example of the road ahead. The process will go through the state legislative committees. And then the next official release will be the May revision. So assuming tax returns will remain, deadline of April 15th, we will know this year in May if there's a positive May revision or it could be a negative May revision. Next steps for us. Currently, we are undergoing budget meetings with school sites and departments. We will include this governor's budget proposal into our multi-year projection for the 23-24 current year second interim report. That will come to you in March, at the first meeting in March. We'll update our revenue projections later on from the governor's May revision, if there are any. And we will hold a public hearing in June to adopt both the local control accountability plan and our proposed budget. This is just an example of what that looks like. We're in between January and March right now. So the next thing you will see as a board is the second interim financial report. Then we will update you on the governor's May revision prior to we ask for board approval. Turn it back to you, President Irvin, for
Thank you, Mr. Zierli. Going out for public comment, any public comments on the governor's 2024 and 2025 budget proposal? Seeing none. I bring it back to the board. Are there any comments and questions from the board on the governor's 2024, 2025 governor's budget proposal? Trustee Marks.
Thank you. So I'm glad to see the governor isn't deferring our payments yet. So I'm happy to see that. I know. Hold our breath, yes. So now as I look at it, the three things that I saw that would affect us were CalPERS, and it's 1.2% to add, it'll take us down 1.2% next year in our budget. I'm believing it's 1.2%. I don't know if it hits the whole budget like that, just the certain retirees or the retirement employees. The ADA will decrease because it's going to drop off that from the 3 years that we had. And then we have step and column, which costs us money. So when we do the multi-year projections, are we going to do the multi-year projections at the March interim? And in that, will it have these three in it? Will it affect it? I mean, I know the step and column's already in it, but I didn't know if ADA and CalPERS was going to be in it.
Yeah, it will be in the second interim multi-year projection. The average daily attendance percentage,
Yes.
that will impact 25-26. So 24-25,
Okay, good.
we're comfortable with the greater of this year or the 3-year average, which includes 21-22.
Yeah.
It's just for 25-26. The first year will be 22-23. So we will lose that bump year in 25-26. But yes, that
Okay.
will be in our projections.
Okay,
As well as we always have step and column increases. We calculate an estimate for that. And then anything in the governor's budget proposal, including PERS, will be included in the second interim multi-year projection.
So the step and column, and I always forget, but is it like 2% of our budget?
We assume 1.5%.
Oh,
I mean,
1.5,
that's
okay.
what we assume.
Okay.
And that's what we build in to our budget, proposed budget, and our multi-year projections.
Okay, so step and column's 1.5, and then CalPERS is 1.2% that we have to add into it for next year. At least that's what it said in here, but I
Or
don't know if it gets
classified
on both.
employees.
Okay, just classified. Okay, that helps, because it won't be 1.2% of our budget, so that's
Correct.
good. And then we only get the 0.76%, which doesn't cover our step and column. So it is going to be less. We'll be deficit spending next year because the budget is we're only promised 0.76. And it's cost us 1.5 to just maintain our district expenses.
Yes, I mean, that is a hypothetical. I mean, the 0.76% is what is added to our revenue, which is around $400 million. The 1.5% is for our employee costs, so it's not the same
right,
as
it won't be as
You
much.
can't really say that the 0.76 does or doesn't cover a 1.5%. But, I mean, yes, we will be, with our cost pressure increases, 0.76 is not enough to cover our ongoing
All of our
cost
expenses.
increases.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's what I was looking at. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Marks. Trustee Daly?
Okay, I'm gonna reference slide 15.
Okay.
Because you said that this was a sample, slide 15 was a
Yes.
sample, but for our school district, it would be a $28 million
Over 2 years,
over
yes.
2 years. So to bring that to what is important, what does that mean for our students?
Well, we're not, at the moment, we're not considering any reduction in services to our students based on that. Much like the state, I mean, we are fortunate in that our reserve levels, we have one-time dollars that you saw on one of the slides that we're using. We have adequate reserves, so we're not, I don't see, I mean, while it may sting a little with deficit spending, we're not foreseeing any imminent cuts to services for our students. Now, if that was to go on for a period of years, obviously we can't continue that. But for the time being, that's not what we're in our plans.
But we do need to remember, this was year one of a 3-year journey in reducing our ESSER dollars, so that we will be reducing some programs and services next year aligned to our COVID dollars, and we have 2 years of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Daly. Question I had was more of, does the savings, I know we have savings in terms of unopened or unfilled positions and maybe other sorts of savings and stuff. Will that eventually help us to lessen the impact of, of the budget? Should we get to that point?
Yeah, the second interim report will have, we'll know by then what positions are most likely not going to be hired and filled in the last 2 months of the school year. So we'll have those adjustments. But what that does is that helps us in the current year. So yes, it alleviates, it may help us buy us 6 months or 8 months into the multi-year projection, but it's one time. Anything we don't spend this year is a one-time savings that would help us if there is a deficit for next budget year.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing, just the board is reminded on, we have a special board meeting, it's a workshop on February 28th. We're gonna go over just budget 101. So just kind of dig into the budget, get really basic with the budget, try to figure out some of the questions that you may have. So if you want to take some notes and bring those in with you, where you can better learn about the budget, because it's a really complex budget. So we're gonna spend an hour or so really just digging in and learning more about the different structures of the budget.
Okay.
I believe it's the 26th. It's a Monday on the 26th at 5:30. Yep, okay.
It's interesting. Dr. Noguchi and I walked out of there, and as weird as it sounds, this is about the best bad news we could have received. So, I mean, it has the potential to be worse.
Right.
But, yes.
Okay, next item, B6. Selection of nomination for the Stanislaus County School Board Member of the Year Award. And I will hand that over to Trustee Brown.
Yes, as our board representative to the Association of Stanislaus County School Boards, I brought forward a recommendation to the group that we start recognizing the quality work that happens within all of our districts and recognize a board member of the year. And just to kind of stage that, all of us have attended the annual CSBA conference, some of us for many years, and we've recognized that there is an annual board member of the year statewide. And so I asked myself, why hasn't anyone from our area ever been recognized for that award? And part of it is that our association has never nominated their own. And so this is the first year of what will become an ongoing annual award that will be presented at our annual school board dinner in April. And I apologize to my fellow board members for the short notice of this. And the reason is, this year we had to develop the criteria and put the paperwork together and have it all in place so that all the districts would have the information to be able to nominate. Every district within the county is eligible to nominate one board member, and self-nominations are not accepted. There's a set of criteria that was shared with you in the board preparation, and you know that there's a lot of great people who serve within our county, and we want to be able to recognize those who have provided exceptional service. So with that being said, I would like to present to this board a nomination. I would like to recommend that we recognize the historical service that our own Cindy Marks has provided in our district, in our county, and in our state. And I would like to put her name forward as our board's nominee for this first award.
Oh, you forget, do you accept the nomination?
I would be honored. Thank you, Chad. That's just like, wow, I can't believe it. Thank you.
But we do have to take a vote on that. It's not just my recommendation.
Right, but we're following the process, you know,
Yes.
we accept, she has to accept it first.
True.
Right.
And I will let you know that there will be a process of getting that nomination paperwork together. And the reason that it needed to happen quickly is that there's a deadline of March 13th. And we, as a board, need to approve the nomination paperwork as well. So there's some time in putting this together, but
Right, and we'll, are there any comments from the public on this agenda item? Seeing none. Are there any questions or comments from the board on this agenda item? Vice President Maestas.
Thank you. So when I was reading, I read through this whole thing, and you know, if you wouldn't have made the nomination, I was going to, because that is the exact same thought that I had. I think Trustee Marks should be recognized for all of the years and all of the contributions that she's put to this district. And so I 100% agree with you, and when it's time, I will second that.
Yes, I would, yeah, definitely reiterate that. I've been knowing Trustee Marks, well, since 1998. And so, and very familiar with her work, both locally, countywide, and statewide. And so it's well deserving for her to be our first nominee for our district, you know. I agree, Chad, that, you know, where was this at as a county, you know, where has it been? But we're here now. And so I definitely agree with the nomination.
so let me just clarify a couple things. First of all, the nominee that receives this award will also be presented in conjunction with the district and the county at putting forth a nomination for the statewide award. So this is the first step towards that.
Call for a motion for a motion to nominate trustee Marks for the first ever Stanislaus County Board Member Trustee of the Year Award.
So I've put forth the nomination, so.
Right. And it's been seconded by trustee Maestas. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All abstain?
Better not.
Any abstentions? You wasn't self-nominated, so you can still vote. Yes, yes. Motion carried.
What about accepting?
Thank you all.
All right, that brings us to B7. Approval of resolution number 23/24-21, authorizing the assignment of teachers outside of credential academic major or minor under the licensing of certificated personnel law for the 2023-2024 school year. Speaker, Mr. Henderson.
Thank you, Board President Irvin. I had some time to think about it this evening, and kind of dawned on me that the excitement about my item may have less to do with the invigorating content of it and more to do with its proximity to the end of the meeting. I'm becoming accustomed to that. With that said, item B7 recommends approval of a resolution authorizing the assignment of teachers outside of their credentialed academic major or minor. Most often, we present this resolution for certificated staff who are credentialed in an area other than physical education to allow them to coach one period of athletics for which students receive BE credit, and occasionally for other special circumstances. In this case, it is primarily for the purpose of authorizing the coaching assignment, as well as 2 other instances for teachers credentialed in science to allow them to teach technology-based courses at 2 of our junior high schools. It's been determined that these individuals qualify under the authorization granted through this resolution, and we recommend the board approve this item.
So be it. I will entertain a motion to approve. Oh, yeah. Go out to the public. Anyone in the public that have a comment on this board item, agenda item? Ms. Lopez? No. Seeing none, board, are there any board members that have comments or questions on this board item? It's been properly moved by trustee Mejia and seconded by trustee Lopez. All in favor signify by saying aye. 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 All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. G3, items to be placed on future Board of Education agendas. Does anyone have any items to be placed on a future board agenda? Seeing none or hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Been properly moved by trustee Mejia and seconded by trustee Marks that we adjourn this meeting, this 1,504th meeting of the Modesto City Schools Board of Education. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions?